Sleeper is the #1 fantasy sports app. It pays to know sports. Pick more or less on top players. Your first pick is on us, so start winning now. Play in Texas, Georgia, Minnesota, and 27 more states. Pick anytime across all sports, pregame or live. Over 10 million players are already on Sleeper. Make your picks count. Score up to 1,000 times your cash. Join today. Get up to $100 credit using the code NEST. Call your shot on Sleeper. Download now.
Hello and welcome to the B&B Show. My name is Brandon Kane, of course, and this guy here to my left, you know the name, you know the face. That's Seahawks Brendan Nelson back in the house here for a Thursday night show. How is it going, Brendan?
Better. 5-2 it beats 4-3. That's for sure.
It does indeed. And if you're going to see your baseball season go down in tough fashion, Game 7, it's at least nice that you can flip the TV back over there and to have the football game on, and your Hawks are at least kicking some butt on this one. A real fun game that we got to watch this last Monday night. Another game where we're up in the game, kind of third quarter-ish, as we've been a couple times this year. I always like to ask this, of course, with you. Let's start before we're going to get over, and we're going to look at folks. We're going to go pretty exhaustively through the teams out here in this trade deadline and look really closely at who is really available, what teams can move where. We're going to shoot down some guys that you guys might be thinking about that just don't make sense from a standpoint the team can't move them on the cap contract that they have on the books. There's about 10 teams with almost about $10 million of less in cap space, so that's going to restrict some of the movement here. But first and foremost, Brendan, let's celebrate just a little bit, putting a bit of the bow on this win. Where are you at big picture coming off this win now for your Seahawks?
I'm in a pretty good place. It really felt like Seattle probably should have won that game by like 3 touchdowns. Really felt like all the seeds were there for a really dominant performance. Some really goofy stuff happened in that game to keep it to where it was, to where there was actually a little bit of drama going into the final couple minutes. But that was a relatively dominant performance. I know Houston's not a good team this year, or at least they're not a great team. Maybe they're okay, but to do what we did to that defense, where, we're right on the cusp of breaking 35 points on them. I take away a lot from that, and I needed to see that after some of the recent things this offense has done where I wasn't quite so sure. But that was a game that reminds you how good they can be, and to see them kind of replicate a lot of the pressure success they had against Jacksonville, against Houston, it just reminds you how far this defense has come over the last couple years. So I don't think Houston's very good this year, but I took a lot from that game. I think that game, again, it reminded you how good this team can be.
It really did. And it just seemed like to me, the offense, it wasn't even about, a player held you back, a quarterback position held you back, the lack of running held. None of these things seem to be the truth to me. It just seems like sometimes with Kubiak, and I think he's a very good offensive coordinator. Like you said, he had same guy that had you kind of almost on a pace to be getting into that 35-point territory. But he does sometimes take that left turn at Albuquerque, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I really like what we're building here. I love the fact that the run defense has been completely fixed after one season under McDonald. Like, this might be the best run defense in football. I like, I don't know, man. There's just a lot to talk about with this team right now, and it feels mostly positive. Now, they're always one loss away from going the other direction, but right now, things feel really good. Sorry, by the way, I'm playing with I know my volume is freaking out right now. You're trying to stabilize it.
Yeah, I think it does feel like, from my standpoint, that we are, you want to think this way anyway as a fan, but sometimes you don't always get the evidence. I think that you're seeing this, which is that it does feel like this team is building upon these performances, and that there is this improvement or better understanding of itself a little bit as we go along, be it Kubiak understanding Darnold a little bit better, Darnold understanding, what he's got around him, this defense just coming together that much more as they get a little bit healthier. Is that also a bit of the feeling of this, I think, in your positivity, and that you're feeling this is everything's kind of adding, as it for where we've sometimes been, where it's one step forward, one step back, one step forward, one step back, and you just can't quite get that forward progress going.
Yeah, I think we're pretty close. I think that there are definitely some areas where it's a little bit frustrating that you couldn't do a little bit more to address it in the offseason. Feels like there was an opportunity to maybe do a little bit more to get this team all the way where we want them to be, but it's definitely been positive over many recent Seahawks seasons.
It has, and does not feel like they played their best football yet either, does it, Brendan? Like, we're certainly not a team that has peaked yet by the looks of things.
Yeah, I don't necessarily get that sense either. I mean, think about all they're doing here, and they still have never really had their secondary all together for one game. You know, they haven't been able to have that. They haven't had their edge room together for one game pretty much all year. Like, they're accomplishing a lot without their best players.
It is true. It's been imperfect, been out without guys, and yet still, getting that job done, especially that secondary with all the injuries they had coming into this game, Brendan, with, still down Love, still down Witherspoon, though we did get to see Riq Woolen really come back and give us a vintage performance in this game. And what a great, again, another just cool thing that's maybe coming forward here that we can maybe take away from this if he can build upon this performance, because we all know he's got it inside.
Yeah. The Woolen thing I think is very interesting, because a couple weeks ago the Seahawks kind of intimated that he was available for a trade, and I'm starting to think that maybe they kind of backed off from that. I think they probably had to come off of that. I think we've kind of learned the hard way that there are some guys on this team that we liked, guys like Darion Kendrick, who put together a couple of good weeks, and even to a lesser extent, although I still think he's playing well, Josh Jobe, who we just can't completely rely on. So I think it's very interesting that the Seahawks allowed that story about Woolen to leak the way they did. And now I think they're going to have to come back from it. But that is probably what's going to happen here. So that's definitely something that's caught my attention. I know that he wasn't going to fetch a lot in a trade, but that was a potential trade chip. And I think you kind of have to take that one off the table now.
Yeah, so I guess your answer to the next question I was going to ask you then is that you're rolling with Woolen coming out of the bye, and it's Jobe that sits once we get Witherspoon back.
I think so. I think he's just the more talented player. He's the player with the higher ceiling. And I mean, Jobe is still playing well, and I like having Jobe around, but I think we've learned that he just isn't. I don't know. It feels very telling to me that these opposing teams we play, it seems like they're constantly trying to pick on Jobe, and it hasn't necessarily worked great for them so far this year. But I do think it's telling that it seems like whenever they feel like they need something, they just go at Jobe, unless Pritchett's also on the field. Then, of course, they attack Pritchett. But I did notice that in that Houston game. It felt like when in doubt, they just threw it to whoever Jobe was covering.
Yeah, it's true. And he did do a really good job, Tushy, because it did seem like, to your point on this as well, that they were going to then move Nico Collins to Jobe's side, keep Nico away from Woolen's side, and that's part of the targeting. But 10 throws to Nico. Only, I think he had about 4 catches in the game. Thought Jobe did a good job. He will give up some, but he does seem like he gives as good as he gets on that, where you're going to get that competitiveness that comes into play. Just a tough call for the coaching staff on this one. I'm sure they're going to probably lean to the Woolen's upside there for the position, and knowing versus the known denominator there and what you have in Jobe and what he brings to the table there. So I think they probably will go that way as well, but at least it's good to have some of that depth here as we're going to talk about here at this trade deadline, Brendan. I'm not so sure that outside corner is a position where there's going to be very many, if any, options for any teams out there to really go make a move for.
Yeah, if anything, I think that teams that are not the Seahawks were hoping that a player like Woolen would be available. Yeah. So I think that Woolen is actually, in theory, one of the best outside corners that would have theoretically been available. So if you're the Seahawks, like who are you trading for? Like the other teams want to trade for an outside corner. So how are you going to find one when you've got one of the outside corners that might be covetable?
So it's a good point, and probably why that just kind of takes that off the board. But hey, now we got the health coming back into flow. We don't need it as much because we got the depth on point, and looking good. Offensively speaking, Darnold, I thought, played better than necessarily the rating, showed in this game. I thought he was, again, really strong. We know we got with JSN. We've talked about him a ton here in recent weeks. Does kind of feel like, and we're going to get into this on the trade deadline, but this is more about, priority stuff. It does feel like we've got a growing problem at right guard, and that this is something that really needs to be addressed because the floor here has been pulled down so low with Bradford as far as the performance. Is that your take as well?
Yeah, I was hoping that it would get better, but honestly, it's getting worse. Like that was probably Bradford's worst game of the season on Monday night. And I know that Houston defense is good, but their interior defensive line is not that good.
Mm-mm.
Like that should not be the game where you're putting up a 15 with your pass blocking grade on PFF. And it should not be the game where you're tackling your own players. It shouldn't be the game where you're getting 2 penalties. I think we gotta kind of go ahead and I think we got to call that one a little bit. I think we got to go ahead and pick what side of the fence we're going to be on with Bradford, and he just doesn't have it. And I did advocate for patience with Bradford because he was so inexperienced at LSU, but I think we've been patient enough. At the very least, he needs to not be playing right now. You want to talk me into him being a long-term project down the line? Sure, but he should not be playing football right now at the minimum.
Yeah, I just then you wonder too. I know Haynes has had the injury thing, but if Haynes coming off this injury can't crack in the lineup either at this point with this low of a performance level at the position, it does also, I think, speak to the fact that we're not likely to see Haynes being able to reach anything close to what they thought they were getting with him in the third round either. Again, we come back to my perspective on this, Brendan. If you're talking about what's got to be the priority at the deadline and going out there and finding, I think that right guard is as much as anything, it's got the highest priority here.
Yeah, I would say so. And that's an unfortunate place to be because we've talked about this before. It's hard to fix your offensive line at the trade deadline. There's a reason why offensive linemen are often not on the move at the deadline. But even with the continuity argument, and I place a lot into the continuity argument on the offensive line, I think that getting a better player in here has to be worth whatever trade-off there is from the lack of continuity.
One guy I'm going to just bring up to you that's a little separate from the guys we're going to talk about from a collection of names standpoint, because it would be a creative trade, and I don't know if it would be on the possibility. I don't think that there's real impactful right guard you're going to be able to get. There's a couple guys we're going to talk about that might be in play that are just kind of like stopgap guys. But I do keep coming back to looking at the Tyler Linderbaum situation with Baltimore, and with Baltimore potentially being maybe in sell mode as we get to the deadline. I mean, they might hold on and think they get Lamar back and go on some crazy run, but that defense still remains what it is, even if you have that faith in Lamar to be that guy there. If you had an offer, if you could kind of blow Baltimore's socks off with like a first plus, a first and a third for a Linderbaum, I know it's not right guard, but then maybe you can move Sundell into right guard then at that point. So you can kind of turn it into a 2-for-1. Would you be open to making that kind of movie if it was on the table, or that's the timing's not right on that to do that?
I'm not closed off to it. It is a lot to give up for a center, though. I will say that. To me, you ask yourself, how do you feel about next year's center class in the draft? How do you feel about that class? It seems like it's okay, but you don't have a blue chipper. You don't have a Linderbaum. You don't have a John Michael Schmitz. I don't even know if you have like a Joe Tippmann. It seems like the best guy is probably Connor Liu, the Auburn guy.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of motivates me in the direction of considering a big trade at a position like center. I could see that. The question is, how big of an improvement is Sundell going to be at right guard over Bradford when Sundell's already? I mean, he's been passable-ish at center.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What's he going to do at right guard? I'm not sure. I believe that you're going to be making a big improvement there. Now you're going to be making the big improvement at center, okay? But
yeah. Well, it would come down to if there was a Linderbaum right guard trade, Brendan, I would make it. I'm all on board with doing that. As I look through the rosters out there is not a guy like Linderbaum coming into sort of that end of his deal due to get a big, massive extension. Team may not be in a position to do so with their cap, with some of the contracts they have on the books. And so that might lead them to be there's just not that right guard guy, or I would do it. And I think what it does do for you is at least gives you now not one, but 3 bodies in there that you can kind of have duke it out at that point to let the best man win. And again, coming back to you right about Sundell, I'm not pushing back there as far as his performance goes, but also that baseline that Bradford sets so bloody low that you just come, I think, well, even if he's a moderate improvement, even if he's just a little bit of an uptick over him, now you've upgraded 2 positions in season rather than just one. And I have to think it would at least be that, or at least that Haynes can get better than this. because he's playing like getting close to playing like kind of league worst guard phase of things. I can't speak to exactly where his PFF rankings right now, but I'd imagine that he's sitting probably in the 70s, something like that. It's like we're well beyond top 32 guy here. We're into the depths on that one. So that's kind of why I'm thinking that this is just kind of a creative way to maybe just upgrade things. But to your point, you're right. You're not necessarily doing something at the right guard.
Yeah, there are obviously nothing on the level of a Linderbaum. There are actually some fairly interesting solutions at center that I think we can explore throughout this video. So I'm not closed off to the idea of Linderbaum. I remember loving Linderbaum in the draft. I thought he was a top 15 player in that class, a generational almost center prospect. But
and remember, Seattle was in that article Boiling wrote. Seattle was trying to get into the first round to get him.
Right, I remember that. So I'm not closed off to it, but that especially then you have to immediately turn around and pay him. And what are you going to have to pay him? At least $20 million a year, right?
That's right.
It's definitely worth thinking about. And you seem pretty confident the Ravens are not going to be willing to pay him that, right? It doesn't seem like that's on the table.
Well, they can do it. And I mean, by the accounts you read on the Ravens, they're certainly, open to doing it. I'll say that based on what you've heard with them. Their cap situation isn't awful heading into 2026 as it stands right now necessarily on that. So, they can go get it done. But you do just look at some of the deals that they've given out, from Henry to Lamar Jackson to Mark Andrews to Roquan Smith to Rashad Bateman to the other guy I'm trying to think about here, Marlon Humphrey. They've definitely thrown out quite a bit there. You've got I think Zay Flowers is potentially coming up here soon at some point. So they've just got kind of a bit of long john. Travis Jones, they need to get the deal done with him too as the one tech. And so how does that all wash out? And I could see them kind of coming to center, being we'll make that the one we don't spend the money on. We have these other positions, and I think historically speaking, the Ravens have been more likely to play these other positions from a front office standpoint, which is important because it's been kind of the same front office there. Even when you had DeCosta move over from Newsom, they do kind of still operate in very similar fashions on how they build the team up. And so this is definitely a creative one. I'm going outside the box on this a little bit. Part of it's that you blow them away a little bit in the offer, giving them more than the first round pick to get the deal done. But I just look at the Ravens right now and wonder if they're going to maybe go into a bit of that sell mode, especially if some of the intention might be there, Brendan, to move off of the head coach after this year.
I imagine they will. Like they've got Lamar in his prime. They can't afford to they can't afford to mess around here. I imagine Harbaugh's out. I mean, it's not just this one season, right? Harbaugh has had two historically great regular season teams over the last 7 years, and they both flamed out in the playoffs. Like this has been building for a while. I'd be very surprised if he's there next year.
Yeah. I would agree. And I think if you're moving on from a coach and you're going to reset this thing anyway, then, and again, it's not, he's a young, great player in Linderbaum. It's not likely to move, but just, are you a team in general that might be willing and open to move some of these guys? Cause that reset's going to have to come in here a little bit. And there's some old parts on this team, like a Humphrey, maybe Mark Andrews starting to get up a little bit in there, Kyle Van Noy, Derrick Henry, that you could kind of come around to Baltimore in this of, look, we had that run and now we need to do a soft reset, not a full on hard one, but at least, start to kind of move this through just a little bit, which would be interesting to see. Anything else left on that last game here this Tuesday or Monday night, or should we jump on into some of these trade deadline targets?
I think that's about it. I think that's really about all there is to say. It was a good game. Kind of a weird game, kind of sloppy. Definitely an opportunity to put your foot on their throat, and you didn't. But I mean, it was. I mean, all wins are valuable, and the fact that you're able to win a game with that many weird things happening, it speaks to how good this team can be.
It's also why I'm not as up in arms about the interception on Sam or the fumble with Arroyo, because I thought that this was actually one game where they had the lead and they actually kind of kept the pressure on as far as passing the ball and didn't just ultimately get hyper conservative, as I think we kind of did a little bit with the Pittsburgh game. I think we did just a little bit with the Jacksonville Jaguar game. It felt like a little bit of them trying to kind of recognize that and move a bit in a different course there. It didn't work out, but I like the philosophy at the heart of what they were doing.
Yeah, and it's tough to run the clock out at the end of these games when your run game your run game isn't terrible, but it's not reliable in any way, shape, or form. So they're trying to find other solutions on how to end games like that. And it's frustrating because I feel like Kubiak isn't going to have the offense that he really wants to have until this team figures out how to run the ball consistently.
It's going to be a big key on this season, and ultimately, Brendan, where we go from a top-end standpoint, because it's hard to think that if you have no run game, you can still just get all the way to the promised land on the back of just being, not even pass happy, but just that's where the effectiveness of the offense has to come in. That's a tough way to live, and hopefully they can find it with time as we go through this year. Green 80 on your side, dropping $14. Thank you for that, Green 80. He says, go for it, John. Go Hawks. B&B Show, the greatest show on earth. Hold on, I got a thing here.
Enough said.
On there. Got to drop that one in there, Green 80. Thank you for that donation, but also for the very, very kind words. And I'm okay for kind of whatever direction John wants to go on this. If he wants to be aggressive, I'm not going to be mad at it. If he wanted to be a little bit of, let me just let this thing play out. I like the base parameters of what I'm seeing. And if he wants to let this organically grow, I'd be okay with that too. And I don't always find myself at trade deadlines feeling like that, Brendan, especially with a team that is sitting on the record we're sitting on. Do you find yourself in the same kind of mindset?
It sure would be unfortunate if we get to the end of this year and it feels like we're ready for a championship, and then something as benign as right guard ends up costing us a chance to go for it. I will say that. So when you look at how good this team's run defense is, how good their pass rush is, how good their secondary is, all this stuff that's going on here, I think it's a little bit harder for me to advocate for just sitting back, because I feel like this team is closer than I thought. Like during the offseason, when I thought Sam Darnold was just going to be decent, I was like, okay, I don't feel the need to go for it with Sam Darnold, but with Darnold playing so well, with JSN playing so well, I do kind of lean the way of let's try to push a little bit here. Let's at least put in the effort. Maybe we'll come up a little bit short like the Mariners did, but like the Mariners, at least you went for it, and at least you were able to get really close and have one of the best seasons you've ever had. So, I mean, I still would rather have this than the Mariners not do anything at the deadline and then just lose in the wild card round.
I love that comp because it's also like it's like what the Mariners did that was part of, I think, what pushed them to get active at the deadline this year versus other years where they haven't always. And I think they saw, I've got Cal Raleigh with an all-time season here. Am I going to let this guy have an all-time season so that we can just go miss the playoffs? How does that look to the fan base? And I don't think that Seahawks are under the same kind of pressure, because some of that with the fan base of the Mariners had to do with what had been going on for years there, as far as that unwillingness to really try to put your foot in the pool and let's go. But to your point, you wonder about that with JSN on an all-time type pace of a season for receiving yardage, Brendan, and to potentially let that go to waste if you're coming short due to the right guard, holding you back. And to your point on that, again, what we know about offensive line doesn't get sank by having three bad parts. An offensive line can get sank by its weakest link being this weak. That can happen. So it is something I think is worth kind of thinking about and considering here from John's perspective.
Right. So I don't know. If you asked me 2 months ago, I would have said, yeah, let's take it easy here. But at this point, I find it a little bit harder to advocate for that.
Yeah, understandable. Dylan Sosa, thank you for the $10 donation, Dylan. I know we didn't play our best, but I think people are overreacting a little bit. This is arguably a top 3 defense we had faced, and we won without playing our best. We should cut them a little slack.
No, I wanted to go to bed, man. It was really late. I wanted to go to bed. If we had put them away with like 10 minutes left, maybe I could have gone to bed a little earlier. What about that? Did you ever think about that?
Yeah, exactly. And of course, Brendan's joking there, Dylan, a little bit, but yeah, you're not hearing it from us, of course, and that you can't undersell the fact that this Texans, to your point, Dylan, is such a good defense. I mean, what did the Rams score in the first week against them? 13 points, something like that. Like,
15, I think
15 barely. And that's with the Rams at home. That's not the Rams on the road in Houston. And this is a Houston team defensively that wasn't really missing any bodies. They had the full strength that they were able to put out there. And let's not forget the full strength with a bye week at their back. So they're healthy. They were fresh. and yet we were able to still take it to them. And so, yeah, I think, people can always want improvement and to see things kind of step forward, and you want to see, put that team away. But look at where the Cardinals are at, Brendan. There's a team that's lost collectively their games by 10 points in total. If you put all their losses
think
together,
it's 5 losses by a total of 13 points, I think is what it is.
So it's like, look at that team. And that's a problem with that Cardinal team, Brendan, that's gone back for a couple of years there with them, I would say. They've had an issue in closing teams out for a while. And with us, it's like our problem is, well, we're just getting so far ahead of teams. We just can't fully put them away. I mean, we put them away, but we don't like put them away like, RIP. It's like, well, I get the want for that. But at the same point in time, it's a good position to be in. First world problems is, I like to say, when you're in this kind of position like where it's okay, third quarter, you're comfortably ahead. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a good thing to have to complain about. And I always say this, in the NFL, most games are close. I think some people watch college football, they get accustomed to these 50-point blowouts, but that is not the norm in the NFL.
No, it's not. They do tend to be tighter games, and a lot of them, most of the time, coming down right to the line on the last possession. But yeah, we're with you on that one, Dylan, for sure. And that this was a great performance on both sides of the ball, and this team's building up well to where they're going. So, you can kind of nitpick on some things, but a lot of reason for the things that were problematic here, even in this game, to reason to believe that they can improve with time. I don't think Kubiak's I think he's going to learn more and more with time. He can trust his base stuff, and he doesn't have to go to wonky Weirdville all of a sudden, to try to throw a curveball. The fastball is working, Brendan, and you're blowing it past him. Stay with the fastball. It just seems like to me Kubiak sometimes starts to go to the splitter, starts to work in a little bit of the slider that he doesn't have a lot of good control of, because he just thinks he's got to keep them off balance a little bit on that play calling. And I don't know that he has to with the regular stuff just working.
Yeah, I think he's trying to find stuff in this offense that works other than Darnold throwing the ball to JSN. And I get it. Like, you're not going to be able to win the Super Bowl just throwing the ball to JSN all the time.
Yeah.
And, there has been, other than maybe AJ Barner, like, I think Barner's done his job and then some. I kind of get it. Like, Arroyo hasn't taken off as a secondary target yet. Cooper Kupp comes and goes depending on the week. So I understand, but I think the solution is a little bit simpler than, we're gonna have Cooper Kupp throw a slant route to JSN, or we're gonna do this Jalen Milroe stuff, which seems like they've kind of given up on. So I appreciate that.
They're learning, Brendan. They're learning, and that's good to see. They keep running that thing out all season, understanding it wasn't working, man. Mm-hmm. But thank you, Dylan. Appreciate the donation. I'd rather be flying with next swing. Thank you for the $2 donation. Riq or Murphy for Raiders JPJ in a pick swap?
I think there's a pretty significant difference in the value of Riq and Murphy. I could be wrong, but I think Maffei's worth a pretty decent amount more because he's a pass rusher, and his value, I think, is pretty ubiquitous across the league, whereas Riq, you've got to be a team that is okay with having your corner be kind of a liability in run support. So, I mean, I think Pete would probably like Riq, but I don't know. I don't think we're going to trade Riq at this point. Now, as for the Maffei thing, I've actually read a lot of stuff lately about maybe moving Maffei at the deadline, because while he is playing fairly well, he hasn't been super impactful. And we're probably not bringing him back next year anyway. I feel like if you're going to move Maffei, you need to have a secondary plan to get another edge rusher in here, because I don't think D-Law, Nwosu, and Hall is going to be enough. I think you need one more decent edge player. Even if it's just like a Clowney type, that's fine, but I don't think that trio is enough.
Yeah, I could see that being the case. I think it's hard. I'd rather be flying next week with both Riq and Murphy too, because they're both going into a free agent year. So whoever's trading for those guys is getting them on a short run, and neither of those two guys do I think is going to be worthy of being franchise tagged. So whatever you give up, you're kind of losing potentially fully. And in the case of the Raiders, you got to hope you get that extension. They might almost want to have an extension done with either of those two players prior to making that kind of trade because of the fact that they're risking kind of losing nothing with JPJ still under a lot of contractual control for a couple of years, as he's only into year 2 of his rookie deal. So I'm open to making that move. I'd rather fly and win. So I mean, if that move's there to be had and bring in JPJ would be great. I mean, he's not been actually bad as a guard, even though he's playing out of position like he is. But you slide him into center, I think he's going to be awesome there. So, that's a move I'm open to making. Just don't know with Riq and Mafe too. Half year of club control, and those guys aren't exactly at the height of their powers as far as playing their best ball here in Seattle at the moment, which is only going to probably depress what you could get back in return for either of those two guys, and does lead me to think that you probably just end up holding on to all of them. Because Brendan, you're right about the 3-man rotation, but I think it's then just easy to sit on Mafe and go, okay, we got 4. We know that this thing runs right if it's got 3 guys in the rotation. We know it's going to be trouble town if we only got 2 guys, like we had a couple of weeks ago. Right. But if we can maintain 3 and then have the 4th guy in the rotation on it, we'll keep them fresh. We'll be in plenty, and we got some insurance if one guy goes down. Yeah. I wonder if John will think of it a little bit like that.
Yeah, I think that if you're going to do that, you need to have a second trade in place to go get another edge player that is at least decent, better than Mike Morris. Again, we always talk about Clowney, somebody like that, but it could be somebody else kind of in that range. And it's hard to chain trades together like that. It's hard enough to get one trade done.
Yeah. Well, it's like to your point on Clowney, the Cowboys are starting to do some things now. And, now they might be in buy mode. They may be the team in on the Crosby sweepstakes right now. So,
yeah. And Jeffrey Simmons, apparently they're going for, so they're gunning it a little bit, and I don't think they'd want to give up Clowney. You're right, but the point I'm trying to make is that you need to get somebody else in here better than just some random dude.
Kyle Van Noy, for instance.
Right.
You got familiarity with him with Mike, and he can play. That's one to me that's an interesting guy to look at because it doesn't cost anything. Ravens will move him. Not going to cost you a lot of draft capital. Knows the defense backwards and front. He can play some will, and he can play some edge. So he's a guy that can give you some, maybe a 2-for-1 kind of situation along with some insurance there, especially if you're talking about making that sort of Riq Woolen deal on the front end. You could come back and pull that in there to kind of reinforce the ranks a little bit very, very cheaply.
Oh, sorry about that. I was muted, but yeah, you're right. I like that idea, actually. The Van Noy thing works.
I think it could be fun there. Catch, thank you for the $2 donation, Catch. Says Fitzpatrick and Sneed. So that would be Minkah Fitzpatrick of the Cardinals and then L'Jarius Sneed of the Titans.
Wait. Minkah Fitzpatrick is on the Cardinals? How did I know?
Or Dolphins. Sorry.
Okay,
Dolphins.
Okay.
I misspoke.
I was about to say.
Dolphin, Cardinals, same animal, potato. But so he's over on the Miami Dolphins, and then you got Sneed. I think I looked into the Dolphins one with him, Brendan. I think he just signed an extension, I thought, did Fitzpatrick.
Well, they just traded for him, so you would think that he would have an extension. That's usually how it works.
No, they didn't do anything crazy with him. They did revise it, and they did give him the 16. Okay, so they gave him $16.5 million in signing bonus, Brendan, but they voided the back 3 years of it. So there's $6 million there's $6.5 million in dead money there that they would have to eat right now. And he carries 4 million base. So
according to ESPN, he's on IR right now. What's going on there? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
Let me take a look here. Yeah, he's on injured reserve as of 2 hours ago.
Ooh, okay. Well, that takes him off the board.
That may be a new development, but yeah.
So that does take him off. It'd be tough for them to make that move to make it work anyway, but yeah, that definitely, if he's on IR, you're not going to be able to make a move and trade for him there. I did look at Sneed, and Sneed was very good, of course, for the Kansas City Chiefs, and part of him being so good for the Chiefs is what got him a free agent contract with the Titans. He's not been particularly good for the Titans. That's just the one thing with it. And looking at him, at least I remember I've seen some cut-ups of him not look good just on Titan fans bitching and moaning about him a bit, Brendan. But as well, just, the grades are not good there. He's at a 49.5 coverage grade right now, which is pretty bad. Pretty bad. And here's been his coverage last year. And by the way, that's an improvement off what he was in his first year with the Titans. He was 36.3 on his grade with the Titans in year 1, coming from the Chiefs. So this looks to me, Brendan, like a guy that got paid, and his grades, by the way, bad all the way around. Run defense, coverage, even as a blitzer. This is a guy that strikes me as a guy that got paid and has decided to go to the Titans, got his championship, went and got his money, and he's kind of he's shutting it down now a little bit at this point. You're not getting the same kind of anything close to the same kind of Snead.
Yeah, I'm not super into that one. I don't believe that he'd come here and be better than what we have. And even over somebody like a Josh Jobe, who I'm not enamored with at this point, I still think Jobe would probably be better because Jobe is playing for something, right? He's playing for his next contract.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hell, and even as where he's at up, and he was feisty as hell. Didn't get dominated by Collins. Didn't have Collins go off. And that's bite the 10 targets to his way. And he had two balls in his hands. You know, he's had some moments where he's been right there to go make a pick. He's made a time or two. So I'm with you on that. I think you're fine with that first going that other chance. Ridley is he's probably making a little bit too much money on that front of things.
Yeah, and we don't use receivers enough. We don't throw the ball enough.
Agreed. Well, and you mentioned Kupp. I think the key thing with Kupp is I don't think he comes and goes because his performance isn't still really top notch. It's just that the hyper target rate of GSN, the running of the ball, the limited number of attempts you have to the rest of the guys. I think if you made more of a mandate to let's get Kupp 5 targets in the game, you could easily offset some of this stuff, and he would be effective with those touches.
Right. Yeah, I don't think you can justify bringing in another receiver. I know that Horton hasn't done anything the last couple weeks, and I know that Horton isn't playing stellar offensively right now. I know that he's had some opportunities to make some plays that he hasn't had, that he hasn't successfully made. But I don't think there's enough meat on the bone to productively add another receiver of really any kind, unless you just want pure depth. So I'm not in on the receiver thing. Feels like a waste.
I say the other thing that to your point on the receiver thing, that's another thing to consider here a little bit, which is special teams play. Jackson Smith and Jigba is not playing special teams. Cooper Kupp is not playing special teams. Horton is only really going to be playing special teams as a punt returner. You're really relying on your Derek Youngs and your Bobos on the back of this roster to be those guys that are the hard hat guys that you do need on the special teams front of things. You bring in another guy like, be it a Ridley or be it any number of these other guys we're talking about, like the Saints receiver they've got, Olave, that he's not going to play special teams either. It's like, who's playing?
Shahid is the other guy.
Yeah, Shahid's the other guy, and he's not playing special teams. I don't think he's got any history of doing it. He's interesting as a name to bring in as a burner who's got the familiarity, and he doesn't cost a lot, and I don't think the Saints are going to get a lot back for him. He's a free agent here. But I think in general terms, that might be the big problem on this, might be that the team might be willing to bring on a little more talented guy, but then, like you said, you don't use them a lot, number one. But number two, who then plays the special teams? Because you're going to probably dip one of those two guys in Young or Bobo off the roster, and now you need somebody else to step up and do something there.
Yeah, and we actually need Derek Young. He's been great on kick returns, I think. He's actually giving you something there that just an anonymous player wouldn't be able to.
Where I keep coming back to where there's maybe going to be some receivers out there that are interesting, but I think we're fine enough there to get the damage done. And Arroyo this last week showed you what Barner showed you as well. I mean, Arroyo, you targeted him early, you worked him in the passing attack, and then you just kind of forgot about him a little bit until he came back around and he had that fumble there. But I think that there's another guy like Kupp to me that there's more room to get those guys more forceful touches, if you were, and that'll be just fine for the offense and finding some of that balance once you do that.
Right. I agree.
Roy Froelich, thank you for the $10 donation over on your side. Says some help at interior linebacker wouldn't hurt.
I do tend to agree. I know that Drake Thomas has played well these last couple games, but I'm just not sure I want to go to war with Drake Thomas as my starting weak side linebacker. I think there are limitations there that are going to catch up to us if we continue to lean on him too much. And clearly something's gone wrong with the Tyrese Knight thing, and I don't know if it's going to get fixed this year.
Yeah, I agreed with you there. And Roy, I'm completely open to doing this. The thing with the interior linebacker, be it a will linebacker you go get, is that, again, we come back to cost is not going to be high to maybe find even a marginal upgrade. And Drake Thomas did have a fantastic game this last week, but that has been a bit of an outlier to what we've seen from him out there playing so far. And that, he's fine. He's not awful, but it's not, is there room there? You can find a guy to help out maybe a little bit more there. Maybe so. And the cost won't be great. I didn't have any guys that really jumped out to me, Brendan, that I was looking at that jump that will be available, but that's one of those positions where it's kind of harder to pin when teams might be willing to move a guy versus not. There's usually a couple guys out there, isn't there? You're muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so running through some names here, just for the sake of completionism, if you're cool with doing some names now.
Sure.
Yeah, so I think the one that a lot of people are buzzing about right now because of the familiarity is Jordan Brooks. I don't know if Jordan Brooks fits what we're trying to do here, but he does have some big fans here, and I do know that there's been some interest from some fans in trying to get Brooks back in here.
Yeah, that one's one I struggle to sign up with on it because it's just his coverage stuff is still as true as ever. It's still a deficiency as much as ever. And the second part of Jordan Brooks that I think a lot of fans forget about is that he's a linebacker that struggles to get off of blocks. That's not his game. He needs to run free and loose to get and go make the tackle. This scheme, with the amount of light box usage that we employ, does not keep things clean for the linebackers on the back end. They've got to get off the blocks. So not only do you have the coverage discrepancies there to me, Brendan, you also then have his stuff that's going to get exposed a bit as far as part of why I think Mike McDonald in the first place was just like, yeah, I'm good. Let him walk. Remember the whole thing where they basically just let him walk to Miami, and that, you were like, yeah, it was a very small deal. He got it given by Miami at that. And you were fine to do it because I think that Mike knew those deficiencies weren't going to work well in his defense.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. If you thought highly of Brooks, and I know some people think very highly of Brooks, I know. But I think that if Schneider and McDonald were two of the people who did, there's no way you let him go to Miami for less than $10 million a year. Like I was surprised at how little he got paid.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's just they're aware of what's on in his game. It's not that he's a bad player. It's just that no matter what good you provide, if you have a gaping hole in your game or two gaping holes in your game, it's going to then reduce down your effectiveness as a player pretty majorly.
Okay, so there's also some people are saying Roquan Smith. I kind of feel like he's not the same player anymore, and I don't even know if the contract is really tradable, but I'm not into that one either.
Yeah, I think that he's not a tremendously old guy at this point because he came into the league so very young, if I remember correctly on that. He's one of those, I think, 21-year-old type cats. Yeah, he signed a deal back in 2023, so he's 2 years into the deal. But yeah, he's got $21 million in bonus that's got to come out plus this year. So it's like $24 million of bonus that's got to be moved right now to be able to get him out the door. So it's just not going to work. There's no pliable way, even if they were interested in that one.
Yeah, and I don't watch every Ravens game, but I don't get the sense that he's the player that he once was.
Maybe not. I think that they've got a couple of issues defensively across the board there where just things have all kind of collapsed in at sort of the same time. I mean, their edge has been problematic there. Travis Jones has been injured there and beats. They don't have their one tech in there to take up the bodies. And remember, they lost Matabuke for the season in addition. So you got to feel like the front four in front of him has been severely reduced down this year. But he's also, I think, been a little injured. And so it just all kind of adds up to probably a no on that one. But they wouldn't, and they can't move the money. There's just no way they can. That's too much dead money that the Ravens would have to sustain.
You got Cody Barton. He might be available. There's another reunion that I know that some people would really be excited about.
He's a guy. He plays football. He's a linebacker in the NFL.
I don't know if I see him being a guy that gets off blocks either.
No, that is, if that's the case with Jordan, it's absolutely 100%, a million percent the case with Cody Barton. A little better in coverage, though, I guess.
Yeah, but that's kind of the book on Drake Thomas, isn't it? That's kind of like Drake Thomas is here to play coverage, right? Mm-hmm. So you already kind of have Cody Barton almost. We got Cody Barton at home.
Oh, he's a better coverage version than Cody. Cody's probably a little bit of a better version to being a run defender, maybe a little bit, but maybe Drake is a significant upgrade as far as pass defender goes.
A little bit on the older side, but Demario Davis.
Demario's interesting for me. I think the one thing though that I come back to with him that I don't know if that's going to work as much or as well as that you have he's been a Mike his whole career. I mean,
he's
Mike
been on the
Willer,
inside. True, very true.
you know, you're going to ask a guy in his what is he here? 13 seasons in, he's going to make a transition to will linebacker. I don't know if that's going to be as much a fit. What they did with this is that they do have all these void year monies buried onto Mario. So like he literally has 5 years of void money pushed out. So they do not have to eat a ton of bonus money on this. This makes a contract movable. And I tell you, Brendan, if I'm the Niners, I'm in on this all day with DeMario and myself, because you're not going to cost you a lot. You need help there for Fred Warner. I mean, that's the team to me that makes the move for him here. But I just don't know about him moving them out the will. I think he's a Mike. I think it's no more than I'd move Ernest Jones out to the will. Like those guys are better in that little boxed period, in that little boxed in area. So I would probably not do that, but he is interesting. Oh, muted.
I'm sorry.
You're good.
I'm off today. I'm rattled.
No worries. It's all good.
Yeah, I'm rattled. I feel like CJ Stroud under that Seattle pass rush.
That's right.
I just want to.
You're getting stacked boxes and blitzes from every angle.
Yeah, I just want to go sit down and get yelled at by Nico Collins. Okay. A couple guys on the Raiders, maybe. Landon Roberts, he's been around. He's an okay player. And Devin White's actually been pretty good for them so far this year. Any interest there?
Well, I've always had a soft spot for Devin White, but he does seem to be a guy that's just bounced around so often and just felt like another guy that felt the love of the sport just kind of drained away from him when he wasn't able to kind of get the contract with Tampa Bay he was trying to get. And he's never been able to quite get onto that. But I mean, I'm open to it with Devin. He could be an interesting guy at the will linebacker position potentially. It's not neither of those two guys are going to cost you anything to bring him in. So it's like, for a flyer day 3 pick, the cap's not significant on that. I'm completely okay with it if that's reinforcement. Like you say, if there's something with Tyrese Knight where this team's like, yeah, it's not going to be healthy all year long. He's always going to be reduced. We're just going to have to get to the offseason to get him back to 100%. Well, then your linebacker room is really thin right now, and you need to address it with one of those kind of supplemental moves.
Only other guy that I can think of at the position would be Bobby Okereke in New York. He's been there for a while. He's been good for them. And you got to figure they're ready to blow it up a little bit in New York.
I'd have to think last week's loss against Denver feels like kind of a backbreaker, doesn't it? Like they thought that maybe they could have some magic they put together with Dart and do that. But I don't know if you watch Dart's game and how he plays, but he's really, really wild and reckless about that right now.
I know people are excited about him. I don't think he's good. I think that he's very careless, and it's gonna come back and bite him eventually. I know so far it hasn't really, but I don't think you can play football that recklessly and not have it come back and bite you.
I don't think so either. And you're a rookie, you're young, you got that young man's body. You take those shots, you shake them off, but you're sort of doing the Russian roulette thing with that, kind of going that crazy with it. He like lowered his head a couple weeks ago when he should have gone out of bounds. You're going, buddy, no, that's not the way. That's not the way. But yeah, I would think that they are in sell mode. There's a couple other guys we can talk about. Okere goes back to the Colts. He has been a solid player, even going back to Indianapolis, and maybe a guy too that gets a little bit lost there in respect of just a bad Giants team, bad Giants defense, but not necessarily a bad player. I'd be okay with that. I don't think he's got a big contract. He's been a couple of years there, so he's moving through the final portions of the deal. So yeah, he could be an interesting cat.
That's really everybody that I think is even worth discussing. I don't think the Jets have anybody. I don't think that the Browns have anybody. Like we're not going to trade for Devin Bush. So no. That's about it.
Yeah, it is a little thin out there. Even though you can usually find linebackers, but and part of this too just comes down to Brendan. There's so many teams that are right now not going to be in sell mode. You still find yourself after last week with a lot of teams right and kind of locked in that same place around sort of 3-3 all across the league a little bit. So I think we're just going to have a very reduced amount of teams that are truly going to be in sell mode here.
Yeah, even a team like Houston that is 2-4 and they look like they're a little out of it. I don't think they're going to blow it up.
No, I don't think so either, especially in the AFC where it looks very open in the AFC. I mean, it seems like a Bengals team is sort of like, we're not going to sell because we're going to wait till Burrow gets back because it is opened up and there is no juggernaut out there. I think this is going to motivate a lot of teams to think that they can right the ship. And that just removes that many more players as far as availability goes.
Right. There are some pretty bad teams out there, but even those bad teams, man, I think every team feels like they can do what the Eagles did in 2020, where the Eagles were practically the worst team in the league, and then the next year they make the playoffs, and then the year after that they go to the Super Bowl. I think everybody just thinks we can do what they did, and most of them can't, but that doesn't mean they're not going to try.
Well, and again, to your point on this, you have whole divisions. When I did the research on this, there are whole divisions where you absolutely positively can say there is not going to be anybody that's selling anything in this division. AFC West, NFC West. Anybody selling, Brandon?
I mean, the only team that would even think about it would be Arizona. And I mean, they're certainly not selling anything to us, but I think Arizona probably thinks they're a good team that's gotten really unlucky the last month.
See your stat about losses, 13 points collectively, right? And then we're just the point we're talking about is teams talk themselves into this. The NFC North. Who's selling out there in the NFC North?
Yeah, you wouldn't think anybody.
So this is where we go. It just, you can go blow by blow by blow. Even the NFC East, everybody in that division is going to be in on it except for the Giants. That's the only possible team that's in sell mode. So it's like you've gone through almost all the NFC there. Say nothing of the NFC South, which is another one that's completely wide open. It's just, this is what happens, is that we just don't have the teams out there that are really willing to kind of move the bodies. Everybody's going to be kind of just sort of, I think, standing pat here a little bit.
Yeah. I think the teams are in a place because of the 7th playoff spot where they don't want to be that team. They just want to sit and wait and hope that things break their way.
Remembering too that once you start selling, that's not good for ticket sales. Like when you start to indicate that we're out on this year, it's like, well, that makes the fans check out too. So that's another part of this domino that falls if you do that. But there'll be a couple here, Brendan. Mega Lucario has been both became a new member on your channel over there on your side. So thank you for that, Mega Lucario. And then also drops a $2 donation. Appreciate you for that. Not sure if you saw Connor Liu tore his ACL. Ooh.
I did not see that. That's a big one. He was bumping up into the first round on some of the mocks.
Oh my goodness, man.
That's a big one. So center number 1 is probably Jake Slaughter, which is a great name for an offensive lineman.
Awesome name for a lineman, man. Yeah.
But like, it's not a good class.
Hasn't been getting a lot of love. And the class in general so far has been beaten up pretty good based on what I've heard. I haven't done I've kind of just been a little bit late this year on getting the prospects as much, but doesn't feel like right now the early word on the street is that this is going to be a particularly strong draft.
I think it's strong at like receiver and edge and maybe linebacker. It's definitely not going to be what we were thinking it was going to be at quarterback. Like quarterback has just been completely annihilated.
Yeah.
Interior offensive line won't be great. I think tackle will be fine, but it's not stellar.
Yeah, not stellar. Not a prime year. Play action with a $2 donation on your side. It says Riq Woolen and like a 4th for JPJ and Tyree Wilson.
Is Tyree Wilson still in the NFL?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's over the Raiders.
Man, he's like Jonathan Hankins to me. I forget he exists.
He certainly hasn't. He hasn't done a lot there with the Raiders, I don't think. But he's got 4 tackle for losses here in 7 games here so far. 3 quarterback hits. Yikes. 2 sacks. He's almost, in 3 years, he's almost cracked 10 sacks.
Yeah, I don't think we could recover from giving up Riq and Mafe. I know those guys aren't playing stellar, but this is especially the case with Mafe. I think Mafe's playing fine. He's getting a lot of pressure. He's just not cashing in on everything.
Yeah.
So I think this is a little too much, and I don't think we'd be able to replace it with other deals because to me, Tyree Wilson's not an edge. Like even in the best case scenario, to me, he should be playing like a JJ Watt. Like he should be playing on the line. I don't view him as an edge at all. So I think this would kind of compromise our team a little bit.
Yeah, I would be a little worried on the outside corner too. Their play action. I guess if you have a supplemental move to get a corner in here to give you some returns, that I could be signed up for it because then you are getting JPJ and Tyree with multiple years still of club control with those 2 guys, whereas both Riq and Mafe are heading out the door after this year. So, that part I do like in that deal, but you'd need to go get some more corner depth at that point because it would be a little thin on that one. I like it though. Creative though, bro. Seth Parkinson, thank you for the $5 donation, Seth. Love the show as always, gentlemen. When does John Schneider start talking to JSN's agent about an extension?
Well, he can't be extended until the end of this season, so there's nothing to talk about yet.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting too with John, where he's made the reference to Charles Cross still having 2 years of club control left and that the team doesn't negotiate with 2 years left on the deal. We'll see if that's going to be as much a hard line situation once JSN comes up, or if suddenly like that magically is, no, we have to sign him after 3 years.
I would hope so. I would really hope that you break your rule for this, because there's what does that rule do for you, really? Like he made a deathbed promise to Paul Allen or something that was almost like the way he put it. It's like, okay, I mean, why? How does that make anything better?
100%, Al. And look, you've made exceptions to the rule, so it's really not a hard rule that's locked in. You've had a few guys that you've been willing to go outside of this on, and to me, one of the places you should be willing to go outside of this on is those first round contracts, because I think the NFL is a little bit, and certainly guys like Jerry Jones have been super sticky about this, where they're trying to get you to play out through all 5 years of your rookie deal before they're going to pay you. Like that's their intention with that. To me, that's just going, no, the guys earned it like this past year 3. You got to pay him. I don't care first round contract, second, third round, you pay those guys. It's one thing if I guess the guy's been in the league and he's already got the big contract, and then you go, no, dude, we paid you. But to me, you're coming off the rookie like this, you got to do it. And so Seth, March, probably as we turn into the new league year, you're going to probably hear about the contract getting worked out and starting to get put together. But you can negotiate inside of the 3 years, like Brendan said on that side of it. It's there's just nowhere to go with it with that one.
Yeah, and I mean, look at the team that is better than anybody at getting these extensions done early. It's Philadelphia, and they're the team that's constantly in the Super Bowl and constantly putting a contender forward. So, I mean, I want to do what the Philadelphia Eagles do. I don't want to do what the Cowboys do. They're a team that hasn't won anything in 30 years. Like, who do I want to copy here?
Well, and it's you wait on these deals, and then what do the Cowboys do? It's like, what happens to these teams that wait? Or they go through year 4 of the guy. Does it work out great in their favor? No, these guys, they wait the extra year on these guys like Dak, and then you end up making Dak the highest paid player in the sport. Or you have Micah Parsons that you play this weird game with him to try to get him to take less, and then you're going to hold him over the barrel on his rookie deal, and then you end up having to move him. It's one of those things. In theory, it'd be great to hold these guys to the line on the rookie contracts and be able to kind of get that extra time out of it, but it just doesn't work out in practicality that way, and the price just goes up so significantly when you've tried to wait that extra year on these guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just learn from the teams that are actually having success right now. Those teams take care of their guys as soon as they can.
They do indeed.
Mutually beneficial. You save a little bit of money, they get the long-term security.
100%. And they'll do this, Seth. We've got a track record of doing this. They'll get this deal done. No doubt about it. And it'll be probably a $40 million a year deal when it's all said and done. Catch, thank you for the $2 donation. Good insight. Issue is no sellers, no right guards or edge. It's very thin. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's
right.
it's very thin. You go, so Brandon, let's do this really fast. You give me yes or no. Okay. I'm just going to fly through these teams real quick. And you say yes or no, whether or not they would be willing to sell anything. Okay. Bills.
I would hope not.
Chargers.
No.
Chiefs.
No.
Colts.
God, no.
Broncos.
No, these are all buyers, man, if anything.
And this is, I'm just going right from the bottom of I'm not going in order, just in the order. And then we've got the teams that would be Giants, Dolphins. That's a yes with both those two teams, right? But then we go Falcons, no. Steelers, no. Raiders, yes. Bears, no. Saints, yes. Texans, no. Bengals, no. Packers, no. Jaguars, no. Eagles, no. Jets, yes. Ravens, yes, maybe. Rams, no. Cardinals, not to us. Vikings, no. Buccaneers, no. Panthers, no. Titans, yes. Seahawks, no, obviously. Browns, maybe yes. 49ers, no. Lions, no. Commanders, no. Cowboys, no. And Patriots, no. So what was there? 7 yeses in there, maybe? It's just, it's very, very lean. And I can't even look at a team. Brendan, do you see a team this week that is maybe not one of those teams that I just mentioned that has a loss this upcoming week and that's enough to draw them into a territory of becoming sellers?
Well,
If the Vikings go, for instance, 3-4.
no, I don't think that does it. I mean, if the Bengals lose to the Jets somehow, maybe that would be like, wake up moment for them. Maybe that would be like, okay, let's stop messing around. Maybe.
Yeah. But aside from that,
if Houston loses, they might have to really think about it because that's a home game they've got this week. I think Houston's maybe the one team that's on the fence right now. I could see that.
and
They're about to have to pay Stroud.
They're taking on the Niners too.
Yeah, but I don't know what Houston has to trade. Like they're not going to trade Nico Collins. They're not going to trade Ariante Ursary. Like who does Houston have to move? Like I don't think they're going to trade Alshire.
Would they give us Ingram?
I guess that would probably be one of their better candidates to move, but I don't know. There's just not a lot here.
Ed's on a 1-year, $3 million contract, man.
Yeah, that might be the one thing. That might
be he's playing well for them, and that might be that maybe on some they're the Houston Texans. They got to take the Niners, and look, the Niners are just like not going away, man. You know, you keep thinking every week it's gonna face up, and they're gonna have this thing catch up to them, but they just keep finding a way of riding through every week. So might be the team that comes into this a little bit worth interesting, but you bring up a good point in that there isn't really anybody there. You know, it's maybe you could look at like a Juice Scruggs. They got him playing left guard, and you're going to put him at center, maybe like a guy like that out of Penn State. I liked him as a center. I didn't like him as a right guard. You know.
Yeah, I don't think he's that good though. I don't think there's a significant upgrade there from Sundell to him personally. Maybe a tiny one, but it might not be worth the loss of continuity. I don't know.
Maybe Jake Andrews, as they do have 3 centers there. They have Jarrett Patterson and Drew Scruggs around him. So maybe an Andrews would be in play.
That's a little bit better.
Yeah, something light.
I could see them trading like Christian Kirk to clear playing time for Jaden Higgins, but
sure,
obviously Seattle wouldn't be that interested.
No old 2 seems to be coming on for them pretty good. So yeah, I could see it going that way as well. Dirt Boy Rick with a $10 dono on your side says, when your quarterback does something like that in the red zone, how can you ever trust him?
Is this referring to the fumble in the end zone from Darnold?
Is that something in the end zone? You mean the fumble, Dirt Boy? I guess is what you might be saying.
I'm guessing that's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can't ever take one particular play of a player ever and say, well, this represents this player. I think that's too much of you can get caught in a very much that's the definition of small sample size, right? Dirt Boy Rick. So that's why you want to try to take on the totality of his performance and look at all through that lens. The other part is the context, like what's the play call? What's happening in the play call? It's not merely he's dropping back and he has the most worst fumble ever that's occurred. When you watch that play and the all-22 shot absolutely showed this, Donald didn't have any safety valves, no security blankets. There was no hot route to throw to when the pressure got there fast. All of those were longer developing routes down the field, which is really back onto Kubiak there. And the whole play sequence was really on Kubiak. You run on first down, which was tremendously predictable, and then you try to throw on deeper route concepts on second and third down without giving him something to throw to. So you have Charbonnet chipping right as the pressure is breaking down on him. Charbonnet is late to get out on a leak out, and then there's a strip sack fumble because there's nowhere to go. So I think Sam's shown you a lot that you can trust in him, and there seems to be a bit of that still, that narrative holding over the top of him, Dirt Boy, that there's this, he turns into a pumpkin all of a sudden on you. Like it's going great, and then he just becomes the pumpkin, and it's just completely awful. And I don't know that I feel that from him and how he's played this year. Understanding it's not always been just set up easy peasy for him to just have maximized success here.
I mean, there are going to be turnovers. Like going back to even college, Sam Darnold has always been a guy that turns it over more than the average quarterback. But I think one thing that I've learned from the watching football over the last several years, turnovers don't really have to be that big of a deal. Turnovers, like Josh Allen turned the ball over more than anybody until last year, and nobody questioned his place as a top 3 quarterback in the league. Nobody disagreed with that. Like at the end of the day, as a quarterback in the NFL, you get the ball about 10 times a game. Your job is to score as many times as you can with those 10 opportunities you're going to get. And, some of your drives end in punts, some of them end in turnovers. Ultimately, the goal is, how often are you scoring? And Darnold, he's got this team playing at a top 5 level with one really reliable weapon that he can use. And the offensive line's okay, but I don't know. I think the narrative around things like turnovers has really gotten out of hand in the NFL personally.
Yeah, I think, and he's been pretty good with the ball otherwise on that. And like you said, it's never going to be perfect for every quarterback, but it's all a big balancing act overall in the productivity stage. And again, just one play is a tough one to hold anybody in alignment for, because you got 60 some plays offensively around that through the rest of the game outside of that one. Thank you though, Rick. Appreciate the donation. Very kind of you. Sean McLeod, thanks for the $5. Are we seeing a guy like Thomas being lifted up by the defense in a way that Malcolm Smith or KJ was because of the defensive line play?
There's a little bit of that going on here. I actually wonder, and I haven't thought about this very much, is this defensive line better than the Legion of Boom defensive line? Because the Legion of Boom defensive line wasn't really about the defensive line. That was like a secondary. That was the secondary felt like it was lifting everything else up a little bit. But you've got Big Cat and Murphy, like that might be better than what we had back in 2013.
Yeah, it's really hard to make the comparison too, because it was a 2-unit situation with the defensive line back then. It was the base downs, and then it was the cheetah package. And so it really was, and you have to kind of put it all totally together, because this defense doesn't work in the same way. It's more rotational based. First down, second down, third down, Byron Murphy, Leonard Williams are just as likely to be out there. Whereas first down before, remember how you had it is you did Brandon McBain and McDaniel were your 2 interior defensive tackles. Then you had Michael Bennett and you had Red Bryant as your base down defenders off the edge. Then you go Cheetah, and now Averill, Clemens, Bennett goes to the 3 tech, and then you brought out Clint McDonald to be your other 3 tech, because you rock kind of a wide 9-ish look, right? When you brought out the Cheetah. So it was 2 3 techs rather than having any 1 tech in at that point. And that unit was pretty outstanding with the collection of what it brought together. Like Red Bryant, you couldn't move him on early downs, right? He was an absolute monster as a run defender early downs. It's very close, is kind of what I'm saying. Do you have a little bit more star power, I think, than that defensive line did? Yeah, you do have more star power, especially at the defensive tackle position. I just saw a stat today from Coleman, put up on my Twitter, Brendan, that Byron Murphy right now is leading all 1 tech, 2 tech, nose tackle, defensive tackles in the sport in pressures. So he's doing this really from the double team still, which just speaks to how good he is to get that done. Because even Avita Beta can't produce his kind of pressures from the spot he's operating from within Tampa Bay. As far as Thomas being lifted up, maybe a little bit, I would say. I think that there's maybe something to that. Certainly right now with the defensive line are playing, that you got to put your resources to them. And I don't have a lot of remembering here on the All-22 with Drake Thomas of him coming off blocks a lot, where you are keeping things pretty clean in front to allow them to kind of run and be free. But yeah, maybe a little bit within that. How about you? Do you see this is a better defensive line?
I'm kind of feeling like it is, and I know it's not a clean comparison either, also because it's a 3-4, and you're comparing it to the 4-3 of the 2013 team. But I do feel like this is a little more destructive. I do feel like there's a little bit more heat coming from this group. And also, one other thing about this comment, KJ Wright was really good. Like, KJ Wright was not just riding coattails. Like, there's no equivalency between Malcolm Smith and KJ Wright. That's Malcolm Smith had like a good month and a half, and then became, I think that next year he was one of the worst players in the league, and he never really found success in the NFL again. KJ Wright had a really good almost decade in this league. Yeah,
and I think even with Malcolm, he was playing a little bit because when there injuries there with KJ a little bit, right? Wasn't that part of what was going on there at the time, I want to say?
Yeah, that was part of it. I think Bruce Irvin was kind of in and out of the lineup that year too.
Well, they did
probably would have
do a Sam.
Yeah. Yeah, and Malcolm Smith just kind of caught this all-time hot streak at the best possible time, where he had like 5 interceptions in the last 6 games of the year that year, including the Super Bowl, including the NFC title game. And, it was awesome. It was great. I'm not saying that, I'm not appreciative of the fact that happened, but Malcolm Smith was a journeyman, and he just caught fire at the exact right moment.
Yeah, he really was. I think that's an accurate way of kind of putting it. The other thing too with this is just, Sean, it gets sometimes hard to quite evaluate, I think, from all perspectives on this will linebacker position. I've mentioned this before, but you've had one will linebacker voted in the Hall of Fame for the last 35 years. One. And I think that does show you a little bit of how hard it is for even in NFL circles for them to quite evaluate the position and what is a valuable will, what doesn't make a valuable will. And it's just that kind of the nature of the position a little bit. Just it's hard there because some of those guys aren't always, like Mike's, taking off blocks, eating up a ton of tackles. Sometimes they're just doing a bunch of variety of different things. Jack of all trades, master of none type players a little bit at times. That also makes it hard for the evaluation of the position for me sometimes. I think it's just tough. Kind of the forgotten man a bit in the defense.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth there. And I mean, how often do you hear a team or anybody in the NFL talk about like a superstar will? It feels like they don't really exist.
No. Nope.
Like maybe you'd have to go back to remember Darius Leonard, those couple years in Indy, and maybe Leighton Vander Esch in Dallas for 1 year. I feel like that's the last time you had anything like that.
Agreed. It's also why I say that it's my opinion pretty strongly so that Chad Brown should be in the Hall of Fame, because he was a guy that you moved him from what he was doing in Pittsburgh as an edge 3-4 guy, and he was awesome at that. Would have had over 100 sacks in his career, still ended up with 80. But then you turned him into a Sam, you turned him into a Will mainly. So he had to do a lot of that sort of off-ball stuff at that point, and he did it well. That's the weird thing, is he could do both those two things, which is why I think he should be Hall of Famer, is he performed both of those two at an insanely high level. But again, because you're a Will, NFL doesn't know how to evaluate that, and you get lost a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Jay Gundy, thank you for the $5 donation. And he brings up something that I've been thinking about a little bit lately, Brendan. Thoughts on packages moving Witherspoon into safety looks.
Yeah, it does feel like there's a little bit of a need to scramble stuff in this secondary, because we've got an abundance of really good players, and we got to figure out a way to get them all on the field as much as possible. So something like this, I think, is pretty darn interesting.
Yeah, I think so as well. We know with last year, McDonald, I don't think he's used as much of it this year so far, but he has been willing in last year when he had, 3 quality, decent safeties, at least with Rashawn Jenkins here, to go to more of the 3 safety looks, Jay Gundy, which is a way to do this. If I can maybe just piggyback off the top of this, though, I've got to say that with Nick Emanwari's development out of the slot and looking like he's looking, and not still yet knowing what we exactly have in Witherspoon as an outside corner, if Witherspoon comes in and he is an outside corner for the rest of this year, Brendan, and we don't get as much of the impact from him out there, or he looks, let's say, slightly reduced from what he was as a slot, where that looked like a more comfortable position for him, I might be a little more on board as we move through this offseason, not now, but move through the offseason of moving him to the strong safety position, understanding that we're going to probably lose Kobe Bryant this offseason to free agency. Is that something you're open to doing as well, given the parameters I just put in place?
Well, do you think he has the size to hold up at strong safety? That would be my question.
I think he's more rugged than Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, I always think of Kobe as the free safety for some reason.
Julian's your free safety. Julian's your free safety. He's playing more to the depth than Kobe is.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I'm open to that. I think that kind of creativity is what this team needs. Move players around, find the best place for them. There are quite a few people out there who theorize that Emanwari might end up being a very good boundary corner as well. That is not conventional thinking, but that is the kind of stuff that I hope this team is thinking about when they look at these players. Let's do something unconventional to try to get the most out of these guys. So I like the idea. I don't know if it'll work or not, but I do like the fact that we're turning over these rocks.
Yeah, and with Witherspoon, the ideal is not to just throw him to safety now, but would be Jay Gundy for me. If you do the evaluation point where I think he should be able to be a great outside corner, I think you can work some more man coverage looks with him out there versus some of the other corners on this roster you have at times. But we still need him to see him out there doing it. He hasn't done it yet here in his pro career out there consistently over and over again. And remember that when we did draft him, there was a lot of pundits out there. There was a lot of draft nicks out there that said that they thought his long-term transition would be to eventually go to safety. So we'll see if it plays out that way. I think he could hold up there, Brendan, with his toughness, tackling ability, and that he plays bigger than his size. But we'll see if he can go with outside corner first. You want to see if he can make it work there as the forefront. Talt, 33. Thank you for the $5 donation. Talt found the problem. K9 due for a contract. JS is balling. JS can't pay both. I have a feeling they're going to let him walk or trade, maybe even cheap deal.
I don't think that there's a problem regarding K9 at all. I think that the solution there is pretty darn simple and pretty obvious, personally.
Yeah, Talt, I think that they're waiting for the K9 explosion to happen, and whether or not it happens or not, it still hasn't happened up until this point. Paying running backs in this sport is already not something that happens a lot league-wide. I think that the team would have been open to paying K9 here if he really broke out, and that they might be open at that point. But if we're going to see more of what we saw, which is some great moments and then some real quiet moments, I think that you just end up letting him walk in free agency, and it's really not about then what he costs. Because remember with this Talt, we've got top 7 amount of cap space next year, and you're probably going to roll over a good amount of cap space from this year into next year, which will then probably take you to like top 5 in cap space. You can pay everybody you want to pay. You can pay your Crosses, you can pay your Witherspoons, you can pay your JSNs, you can pay your K9s. There's plenty of money to do that, but are they worth it? Do you want to pay that? Is that the best way to go, is to pay running backs money, or to just try to just keep drafting the really talented ones and keep the price low, even if the draft capital is high in them?
Yeah, I just, even if K9 was playing really well, obviously I'd be open to it. I still just don't feel like it's a good idea to keep that guy on a second deal. I feel like with the injuries he's already had, with the resistance this team has shown to really make him a workhorse, and while I do like him, some of his limitations as a player, I just think you're better off rolling forward with another running back next year and let Walker go somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm kind of in this same bone with it as well. I love the upside, and look, I don't think we've ever quite been able to realize his upside. Some of it's not his fault there with the lack of consistent run blocking, but it is what it is. The running back position is devalued. Just doesn't make a lot of sense to pay these guys big money, even in the best of times, if there aren't some questions. The injury thing is just enough to push me over the line, like you just mentioned, Brendan, where I don't know if I can trust his injury in the future, even if he is productive. And that's a big thing that you don't want as a question mark over running backs as you're about to pay him contracts, because it's already something on the table that we know is a reality when you do pay them, that injury comes up and hits, and that it hits in a major way. So I think John's got to look at this realistically, and will do so. You love the talent. You played out through the rest of the year. I don't see him being moved in a trade, but at the same point in time, it's probably that's where the end of the road probably reaches at that point, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and as for JSN, everybody just get ready here, because it's probably going to be like $42 million a year. Just get ready for it and be okay with it.
Yep.
Like it's fine. It's fine.
And the fact that you do this in year after year 3, you'll be able to really move the numbers in a way to where it's maybe $42.5 million a year, but the first 2 years of that cap hit are going to be very tremendously low, or much lower than that hit. It'll be more into 15-ish territory through the first couple of years of the deal. So, you can make it work. There's plenty of space to get this done, and partly Talt because they've bled out so many of the bad contracts over the past 3 years. They've not sat on contracts in the book, or they've not done the post June 1st thing, so that there's dead money coming into next year as well. They ate it all on the front end, like the Jamal Adams contracts, and so you freed yourself up to be very contractually clean as we move through the next couple of years. Randall McDaniel, thank you for the $5 donation. Hey guys, just jumping on. I'm sure you covered it, but I'd like if we added to upgrade wide receiver, right guard, and edge rush. Any possible names or other position? Well, we're still kind of we're going to be going blow by blow through these positions a little bit, Randall. So we're kind of rolling here bit by bit through these. Just to recover the ground a little bit through wide receiver. I think from both of our perspectives on this, neither of us are really super hot to trot on necessarily going for a receiver at the front of this, just because, look, the guys we have, I think there's a thinking here right now that, well, Cooper Kupp's and Horton aren't doing anything, So you got to go get a wide receiver because they're not doing anything. So you can get a receiver who can do something. So you can get a receiver that can bounce off of JSN. But my take on this more is, Randall, the reason your receivers aren't doing anything or you're not getting more production out of them is because, number one, JSN's getting a 44% target share of the passing offense. So that's leaving very little left for those other guys to work with. And then you're running the ball so consistently and staying with it so often. So it's just, there's not enough attempts right now to me for the receivers we have in house to come to a determination that they're deficient, that they're not enough right now and that we need to do more. You can make the argument from a depth standpoint, but it's kind of a bonus deal to do that. And you're going to end up leaving, probably a pretty talented receiver on the bench. And just the last point to the wide receiver there, Randall, is the fact that you need this guy to play special teams. You got already guys that are on the front end of this that are not playing special teams like Cooper Kupp and JSN. Now the back end receivers got to play special teams. So you go make an Olavi trade, you go make a trade for a Shaheed. Those guys aren't playing special teams. So who's playing special teams at that point? It's something that's probably worth considering. Brendan, you add up on this if you can. I'm gonna use the bathroom real quick. 1 second.
Right. And the thing to understand is I think people are surprised at how stark this is. The Seahawks are 30th in the league in passing attempts right now. And they are 4th in the league in rushing attempts. They don't really throw the ball that much. And some of that is because they haven't done a very good job extending drives and keeping the ball and really making these drives string together long sequences. But this is not a team that's going to throw the ball very much. So getting another wide receiver, like how much are you really going to use that receiver? I don't think you're going to. This is Kubiak's offense. Remember, we're about to get our fullback back also. That's also a consideration here. And when you do that, that's another player that's going to be on the field that is going to replace a theoretical another wide receiver. So I think you got to just kind of roll with it. And I don't think this is a bad spot. All right, welcome back.
Welcome back. As far as right guard goes, because I don't think that there's a lot of options there, Brendan, so not the worst time for us to get into the right guard possibilities here. There was one guy that I came up with, and I'd see what names you have. I was only really able to come up with 2 names, actually, but one name that did intrigue me quite a bit, because I think about a guard coming to a team like this at this late of an hour, wondering how much you're going to get out of a young guy having to learn this offense on the fly midseason. But Kevin Zeitler and Wyatt Teller are the 2 guys I've looked at that stand out. And Zeitler being a guy that's been in the league for a long time, older player, you're not looking at a long-term answer here. But we look at the baseline being so low, that guy looks like you could get a significant upgrade on him if you get the Titans willing to move him from where you're getting performative-wise at the position right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those I think are the easy ones. 2 bad teams. They got no business having players like that. Like, how can Zeitler possibly be happy right now on that Tennessee team? I mean, he's a longtime NFL veteran. He was on the Lions, I think, until this year, right? The team that won the most games in the league last year. That seems like a no-brainer. And apparently Tennessee's making almost everything available. The hot tip from earlier today was that Skoronski is available now. So if they're making Skoronski available, then they're making everybody except like Cam Ward available pretty much.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with you there. And Skoronski, of course, a left guard there. But I just think the Zeitler one costs you very little. Yeah, it's a day 3 pick. He's not going to eat a ton of cap space on you to bring him in. He'll learn this offense fast. He's probably in all of his stops somewhere. I'm sure he's played in some kind of institution of this offense somewhere. Mm-hmm. And that's one that just to me it's kind of a too easy of an answer there to bring him in. Again, with just knowing with this Randall that Bradford's got such a low level of play that he's putting out right now, and it's getting worse with time. It's not getting better with time.
Right. And I think that you're obligated to try something. And Wyatt Teller, that's the Browns. That's another one where that team is not going to be winning anything anytime soon.
It's very true. It's very true. Why was there any other right guard out there that you had targeted?
Well, we're going to have to get a little creative here, but let's talk about a couple things. So the Jets, like if you look at the Jets right now, number one, you've got John Simpson, who has only ever really played left guard, but he's pretty good. That contract is very tradable. And a guy like John Simpson, who is a veteran, really has no business on a team that, unlike the Ravens, I think the Jets understand they are a long way away from being anything. So it should be very easy to convince them to sell a little bit here. Like, would you have any interest in trying that? Or is it just too late in the season for that?
Well, I just don't like John Simpson's game very much. So I guess that's my issue with it, is that when you look through that guy's career, last year he had a good year for the Jets, but aside from that, he's been crappy to awful throughout every year of his career since 2020. So I just don't know if you're going to make a move, go for an upgrade. Don't just go for what's going to be essentially kind of maybe a lateral sort of situation, especially as you mentioned this guy's case with the position he plays. So it's
okay. Kind of like the thing you suggested with Linderbaum. The Jets currently have Josh Myers at center, and they have Joe Tittman, who is also a center at right guard. So you got Tittman playing out of position, very talented player. Do you get Tittman, play him at center, and then move Sundell to right guard? Would you be interested in that?
Yeah, I'm open to that, because with him playing guard, he is out of position there. I mean, he's another guy, and we see so many teams doing this, of course, where they can't help them doing it. But I think last year, if I'm not mistaken, I'm double checking right now, last year they had him at center and he performed very well there. So, yeah, he would be an upgrade to center. And I feel like, again, Sundell gets the benefit here of the same principle I'm putting into place, of that if I've got league worst play from the right guard position, almost anything is going to be, there's nowhere to go but up from there, in my opinion. I have to think that if it's not Sundell, that you have to come back to Haynes and you go, look, Haynes can't give us over this as a baseline once he's healthy. This baseline, that's too much for him.
Let's see. Miami has Cole Strange at right guard. I don't know what Cole Strange has done since he's come into the NFL, but I feel like it's not been good, so I don't see anything there. Let's see here. Ravens have Fa'alele. He's coming up on where he could get an extension theoretically, I guess.
He's not been, they haven't liked his play, and he's kicked into right guard, and he's not, he won't give us the athleticism at right guard that we need. He just can't move well enough for that guy being as big as he is. He needs to be in gap-based, man-on-man kind of stuff.
They actually have Ben Cleveland on the bench, which I forgot he was on that team. Huh.
It's true. Yeah, he's out there.
Let's see. What about another center here? What about Cushenberry from the Titans? Trade for him, play him at center, move Sundell.
I'm okay with that. Cushenberry's interesting. He's not an athletic mover. He's super, super long, and he's got the kind of size. So I'm okay with that. That'd be fine. I don't know if it'd do a major upgrade there for it, but maybe a minor one.
Mm-hmm. Eric McCoy just went on IR, so he's out. I think he's out for the year, literally. So there's nothing there anymore. Let's see here. Anything else? We already talked about JPJ, which I still think is intriguing. Yeah, that's really about it, man. Other than Ed Ingram, who we already talked about.
Yeah, Ed would be the only one. Yeah, there's no other real centers to me out there, other than, again, Houston's the other one you could maybe look at with Juice Scruggs, Jake Andrews, Jared Patterson. All those guys are centers. So they've got a little bit of a log jam there at center as it is right now. Maybe you could find something in there, with those guys. Last, and we'll cover this one. It's just as good as time. Thank you again for this donation, Randall. Let's cover the edge real quick here. I got to say, I don't know if edge is going to be really as much of a priority at this point, unless you're moving Mafe for some other move you're trying to put together. I feel like we'll talk about the guys that we're going to look at here, and there are a couple names, and edge tends to be the one at the trade deadline you can do something with. But I just have to think with DeMarcus Lawrence coming back and bringing the impact he is, they've got the rotation set right. This is a little bit like the same situation to maybe a lesser degree, Brendan, of if you go make a wide receiver move where you're making a move, you're maybe helping out, but you're really just bringing in depth that might not play a whole bunch. Do you see it the same way there? You're muted.
Unbelievable. Anyway. Yeah, I think that if this edge room is going to stick as it is, adding a fifth guy doesn't make any sense. Like, your fifth edge can be somebody like a Jared Ivey, and that's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So you would have to move Mafe and then go get another edge to replace Mafe. That's the only way it makes sense. I did hear some rumors that a guy like Will McDonald on the Jets could be available. That's kind of interesting, I guess.
I think him and Jermaine Johnson are both in play, potentially, as far as options go. I don't think that they're guaranteed to move him, but both those guys are getting close to having to have the Jets make a call in an extension or not. And I think that those guys would both be in that lane.
Yeah, I would be into that personally.
I'm open to it, but again, it's got to come with we've done something with Mafia on the other end. To me, you can't bring in a fifth guy on this, or it's got to be on the back of something like that. But they're intriguing potential options, and they haven't been bad players either. The two of them, I do wonder with either the two of them too. I feel like the Niners are with Saleh there and his knowing of those two guys. One of those two guys, I feel like the deadline might end up there with the Niners. When this gets said and done. The other guy edgewise that I looked at, I think that two things. Number one, Carl Granderson, I think, is out because of the fact that his contract is really not movable right now with the Saints. And then Kayvon Thibodeau is, of course, the guy that we've brought up a few different times here on the
he's playing pretty good so far this year, I think.
So odd is that he's been a better run defender than he's been a pass rusher so far this year, but not bad in either way. And he's been solid, to your point. And a guy that Giants are potentially open to maybe moving. So a guy that could be in play here, 24 years old, still very young, and maybe a guy that they would be potentially interested there. But again, I just don't see adding the tough part here, Randall, is that you feel like when you've had your 3-man rotations this year, it's rolling, and now you're going to get Derek Hall back into the flow of this after the bye. And it's the first time all year we've had really all 4 guys rolling at the fort. Man, there's only going to be so many snaps there to be had, and you're going to be trying to play them all. So it's a good problem to have, but it's also why it's hard to maybe go out there and make that move. Max Crosby.
That's the big one.
Yeah, that's the big one here, Randall. And this is the one that I have found myself. I do feel like I could really see the Cowboys going after this one and feeling like they played a 4D chess move, because you go make this move, you give up the 2 first-round picks in this next year's draft or later first-round picks. And now you potentially have upgraded your position, albeit it got a little bit older from where it was with Micah, and you don't have to pay a new contract. So to me, from Jerry's standpoint, because we know the monetary part of that was a big holdup.
Yeah.
I feel like they're going to be a team that could really come in here and jump in on that one. But Max Crosby, 3 first-round picks. I forget where you stood on this one, or were you a yay or nay on that?
I mean, I would do it. I wouldn't love it, but I would do it. I think that if you have the opportunity to add a true superstar, you got to close your eyes and do it sometimes.
Yeah, I do as well. And as good as it is where we are with that edge rush right now, we are facing a little bit of a decision here looming, moving into the offseason. Free agent with Boye Mafe, Derek Hall with 1 more contractual year remaining, Marcus Lawrence getting another year older, Uchenna with only 1 more year on his deal. You don't have to do things in this offseason at that point now, but it does show that over the next 2 years, we could easily look at this team and see all of the edges rotated out into new edges by the way that the contracts are set up. And so something to consider as part of this process too. Thank you, Randall. Appreciate you, man. It's good to see you in the house.
Well, real quick here, another couple of edges that I've heard people float out there. I'm not a fan of this one. Some people say Bradley Chubb. That one doesn't really do much for me.
Me neither. And the injury history with him on that has me a little bit not wanting to go in on that one as well.
Yeah, we talked about Kyle Van Noy. That's kind of interesting if you move Mafe and you need somebody else to kind of hold you over for a little bit.
Yeah. And he helps you with some will linebacker stuff.
Let's see here. You already said Carl Granderson's out. Yeah, Max Crosby we talked about. I think that might be it. I don't think Houston's moving their guys. They just signed Hunter. They can't move them.
Yeah.
So I think that's it.
Yeah, not moving Anderson either. So it does reduce things down just a little bit. And this is where we come to really feeling the brunt of there being so few teams in sell mode. Basically, this is where you really do feel that at this point. Beyond Balance, thank you for the $5 donation. It says, just joining, might have covered this, but what's the number one thing you want fixed or accomplished over the bye?
I think that the one area of this team that is untenable is clearly right guard. I'd love to be able to go into that Washington game next week with a different solution at right guard, even if it's Christian Haynes, and I don't take a very rosy position of what Christian Haynes is going to be able to do, because I think that he is probably just not strong enough to play right guard, but at this point I'm willing to try it.
Yeah, beyond balance, to Brennan's point, there's no positional group on this team on either the offense or defensive side of the ball that is in worse shape than the right guard position, and it's trending downwards at that. So the bullet is going this way. And so this is the one when it gets down this far, when the level of play has reached this kind of breaking point to me, it shouldn't be that hard to find a marginal upgrade out there. And I would expect that this should be where John can straightforward go and hopefully find that. It's hard to find offensive linemen. It is, but a couple of teams we talked about, like the Titans with Skoronski. I mean, hell, can you take a Skoronski, move him to right guard and have him use his, some maybe mobility to get there right guard you wouldn't typically have? Maybe. I think you got to do something here, though. You've tried to make this Bradford thing work. You've stretched this thing out as far as you can, waiting for that development to come forward, and it just hasn't happened. And he started out a little bit better this year at the beginning of it, but the fact that this trends backwards now as you're going through this year is just a bad sign. Say nothing of the fact that we could use some depth there, even if it's not to get the improvement of him. So Haynes, however they do it beyond balance, we've got to address this right guard position, even if we got to address the center position just to have another body over there to right guard, and that's the way you upgrade it. Upgrade the interior of this offensive line somehow, John, around this trade deadline, please, because it could have a really, really major effect. And the big thing that I worry about is we come down the line on this and we come up to find, as we've seen so many times over the past 10 years, that our upside becomes restricted as a team, not because of any other fact on this team other than the deficiencies within this offensive line. That keeps me up at night. That gets me worried because it's been a problem so very often over so many seasons.
Yeah, and when you go through a season with a sports team, in pretty much any sport, and you know that they're very good, but they have this clear, obvious weakness, yeah, I feel like an inordinate amount of the time, that weakness ends up ending your season. I'm thinking about, like, remember that Packers team from 2021 that was clearly the best team in the league, but they had really bad special teams, and they get to the playoffs, and then they have the blocked punt, they have the blocked field goal, and their special teams completely blows their divisional round game against the Niners.
Yeah.
And they lose to Jimmy Garoppolo at home. And it's like, well, of course that was going to end their season. Like you knew it the whole time. They were 13-4. They had the MVP of the league. You knew their special teams were going to blow that season, and they did.
It comes back and rears its ugly head at the worst of times, to your point. And that's why that's what we're so worried about this, is you just don't have any other parts of this team that really have those same kind of, even with outside corner, which is sometimes with the, injuries and stuff, with the Woolen play at times, got you weird, scared. No position has been kind of shows itself like you're talking about, where you can see the signs. You can prophetically, like, hey, this thing down the line, we go face some crazy interior defensive lineman. They target up on Bradford and he's just owning him throughout the whole game. That's, you get worried about that. So that's really the spot for us, I think, beyond balance. I think that if you improve that, this offense, I mean, look at how good they played already so far. If we get just marginal improvement of play from the right guard position, that would, to me, take this whole offense up another notch.
Right. So that's where I am.
Dylan Sosa, thank you for the $5 donation. And thank you, everybody here. We got so many donos coming in today. Appreciate y'all. Says, I saw a show that said Seattle should run more dime with Woolen and Job on the outside, Nick and Spoon in the slots, with Lubb and Kobe in the back.
I mean, you can't do it too much or else you're going to get run on. Like, I know this run defense has played inordinately well despite living in nickel, but you go to dime, eventually these teams are going to break through on you on the ground. So you got to be careful, but I could see it a little bit more. I don't hate that.
I'm open to the possibility of it, Dylan. I think that the weird part of this to me on the timing of suggesting this on the show that suggested it is that you're living in an era in this year where the 4 wide receiver sets haven't been out there. When you see 4 wide receiver sets in this year's NFL team by team, you're going to typically see it with 3 wide receivers and 1 tight end. You're not seeing pure 4 wide. And so back to Brennan's point about having some worries about, how you get run on there a little bit. Like, when do you go to dime? You're not going to do it from what would be nickel looks. You're not going to do it from 12 personnel, 2 tight ends that you'll bring out four corners on the outside like that. So there's a time and place for it, but I don't think that it's something that should be their lead formation or something that they try to drive into as often as possible. If we were more of a 4 wide receiver look pure, like we would have been maybe even 10 years ago, more of those looks were on the field, then I could see and understand the thinking behind it. But teams are going less spread conceptually across the board league wise. It's going more to bigger, heavier right now than it is going to lighter. And I think that kind of outlook would be better served to more of a lighter offensive look that you're facing.
Right.
Thank you, though. Appreciate it, Dylan. Tell33, thanks for a $2 donation over here on Brendan's side. Anyway, we could get Max Crosby or Myles Garrett. Myles made his peace with the devil, didn't he, Brendan?
Yeah, he's there forever. He is there forever. And I mean, he seems He seems like he's okay with it. I get it. Like, but no, there's no trading for him. Cleveland would eat. They already have all this Deshaun Watson stuff they have to deal with. They can't deal with the Garrett part of it too. And even if it wasn't for Deshaun Watson, I don't think they would be willing to do it.
Yeah, I think that they would have moved him when he asked for a trade this offseason if there was any willingness on their part to do that. And they should have. I mean, this is in retrospect proving that they should have. It was dumb to hold on to him. And I always like to say, these organizations that are craptastic for good reason. They make bad decision after bad decision. I've lauded John Schneider in our front office, Brendan, for stacking up smart decisions over the last few years. The counter to that is there's plenty of organizations out there like the Jets, like the Browns, that just make bad decision after bad decision after bad decision, and you can see why they're so horrible. We were talking about Crosby. Me and Brendan are both in favor of potentially making this move. I think that the fly in the ointment on this one, Talt, is that you cannot really combo up a deal here to sort of get off the hook of giving out max compensation. There is no 1 first-round pick and Boye Mafe and a 3rd-round pick gets the job done. It's going to probably cost you 3 first-round picks and maybe even a Mafe on top of that, because there's going to be so many teams in on this, number one. But the number two, because Garrett's contract, unlike Crosby's contract, unlike Garrett, is actually movable. You can actually make that thing not eat a ton of dead money from the Raiders standpoint, and you're not going to have to sign him to a new deal when you bring him on. So it's going to cause you to have to give up max draft capital, no pun intended. But I'd do it, Brendan.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know who really has power in the Vegas front office, because Spytech, I think, and this is just me speculating, I could definitely see Spytech moving Crosby because he's realized that this Raiders this is not going to be good for a while. I feel like Pete is definitely the kind of guy who would not be willing to trade a player as good as Crosby, no matter what. I think Pete, after the Chiefs game last week where they lost 34-0, Pete kind of went out in his press conference and he didn't directly say it, but he implied it was because they lost that bad because of all their injuries. Like, he still probably thinks that's a really good team and they're just getting unlucky.
Yeah.
That's how Pete does things, I think. That's how he feels about things. So if I had to guess, I would say that Pete would not be willing to move Crosby for anything because that's just not how he does business.
Any part of you that might think that Pete's already made his peace, the fact that this is going to be a one-off?
It should be. It probably should be, but I don't know if it will be. That's interesting. I've thought about that too.
Yeah,
like, if you're the Raiders and you could just go ahead and eat the Pete contract and go get John Harbaugh because he's probably going to be available, I think that's probably better.
You could see the argument to be made that you could find maybe the upgraded coach that's going to be more significant at that point. There's no way Brady would go back after Belichick, right?
No. And I think that I'm not saying that some team won't eventually fall for it because he is Bill Belichick, but I think we need to kind of accept here that the game has just passed him by and he can't reach these players anymore the way that he used to.
Tom will do it. He's just going to make him break up with his girlfriend. That's going to be the key to getting the deal done. You don't get to bring the girl with you.
Yeah.
Just you, Bill. Just you. But that's the part that I do wonder about the Crosby thing. I think you're right about the fact 100% you're on point. Carroll's not going to want him to move. Carroll's going to dig his heels in and fight that at every turn. But if he is a guy that's already where the writing's on the wall, so to speak, with Carroll there in the Raider land and the Raiders, he's like, look, this is going to take too long to fix this through. I thought this would be something I could more short turn around. Then it's out of his hands a little bit as far as, or his voice isn't as loud on that deal to moving Crosby. And I just come back to, from the Raiders standpoint, this isn't us just wishing because we want Crosby. If they don't move Crosby to us here, if I'm a Raider fan, if I want to see that team be great in the future, I am pounding the table for my organization to move him, period. Now is the time to move him. Now is the time to maximize this. You risk that injury going into this offseason and get nothing for him. Now that pathway to you getting this turned around is that much longer and it's going to take much more to get there. So I really think from the Raiders standpoint, it's smart to do this right now because they could get more compensation for him for an edge than anybody's ever gotten for an edge in NFL history. That part alone should be enough to drive you to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it sounds like you've got at least a couple of bidders here that you know of. Like we know about Dallas, But there are going to be plenty of other teams that are driving that price up, I think.
I 100% agree. And if that's the case from a Raider standpoint, how do you not do it? And to take that risk to go into next offseason, and if he, has already been beat up a little bit this year, but I thought even like in that game, Brent, remember they took him out. We heard afterwards, everybody was kind of freaking out in the day in Hawkland or across the NFL if there was teams that were wanting him. And then we hear after that, they took him out because of precautionary reasons. I thought that was also a little bit interesting.
Yeah.
Cautionary.
Yeah,
okay.
Very true.
Don't see that a lot in the NFL. Daniel, thank you for the $2 donation. He says, simple solution for Anthony Bradford, just play him a nose tackle. Laughing out loud. He's got that nose tackle size, that's for sure, Daniel. And he'd be an athletic nose.
Yeah. I mean, creativity, I'm all for it. I mean, what's his name? J.R. Sweezy did the opposite, right? He was a defensive lineman in college, moved to right guard in the NFL and was pretty good. So
True.
I'm all for it.
Go the other way. Why can't it go the other way?
I mean, he's a phenomenal athlete for his size. Like, he should be able to find something that he can do in this league.
He really, really, really should. But thank you there, Daniel. Appreciate it. We just reclamate him a little bit if we can. Tult, thank you for another $2 donation. All of your support today. He says, once Oots comes back, Oots. Will the running game be improved, Brendan?
I would think so. I think that he was a part of our plan this season, and without him, you've seen that Brady Russell can't really do the fullback stuff the way we want him to. So there's been nobody to replace Oots. So I do think he helps.
I do think he helps as well. I have come back again and again, though, watching the tape and look at the bottom line numbers on this Tult with the stack box rate that we're dealing with, number one in the NFL. In that, I think that you're just always going to this year struggle to run the ball really consistently if you're going to get more stack boxes than anybody in the NFL. I think that's it. It's one thing if you're middle of the road. It's one thing if you're top 10 to say, well, look, it's an issue, but we can it's not there all the time. It's not there incessantly. But when it's up at number one and it's that extreme, I think the answer comes back to like Oots will help. He definitely will. And we can see, I think in Brady that he's nowhere near the run blocker Oots is in the hole. I mean, he's just not. So there's certainly a part there that's going to be improved. But I also just think these teams, they're saying we are going to take away the run and we're going to force Sam Darnold to beat us. And they're saying it to an extreme degree. And when it's this extreme, I think you just go, okay, well, we trust in Sam to be able to do it then. And he's shown so far he can, that he is up to the task.
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of the fullback offense in the modern NFL, but I do think that Kubiak, like in this offense, you do need that. So I get it. And I do wonder if teams are ever going to come out of all these stacked boxes against Seattle, if they're going to learn that, hey, maybe this doesn't work. Like, Seattle's fifth in the league in scoring at this point in time. You would think that somebody would go, hey, maybe we should play them differently than we have been.
You really would. But it's again a thing I saw from the Texans this week, and maybe they didn't quite go as extreme as some of the other teams we've seen with this, but they still dialed it up. They still were willing to bring up on those guys down there, especially for them. It wasn't as much they stacked the box at the line of scrimmage. They stacked the box with like 4 linebacker types behind the line of scrimmage. So you're looking at 4-4, right? 4 at the front, 4 right behind the front, standing off their butts. And I look at that 8-man front, and I'm like, well, where are you running on the 8-man front? I mean, it's not like we're rocking just one wide receiver out here. They're going 8-man front with us in 2 and 3 wide, seems like sometimes. And there's nowhere to go on that, man. That's too many bodies to me. I can't think of an NFL offense that I can remember in recent history that dealt stack boxes consistently, that were able to run through those stack boxes. Even good running teams that once that happens, they get pretty well shut down and then they start passing. That's the answer to me.
Yeah.
There should be a lot of room on the back end. Feed Me More Seahawks, thank you for the $2 donation. He says, did you hear the Tua press conference? I can't see over the offensive line. Yeah, Tua's been saying some weird stuff lately.
Yeah, he's going through it right now.
Ooh, is he going through it, Brendan? That kid, you just go, buddy, just we're seeing the last of the days of Tua at this point, right? Like as far as starting goes in this league. And then who's bringing him in to be their number one backup, by the way, after that?
Pete Carroll in Vegas, I guess.
Maybe so down there, man.
I'd say the Colts, because the Colts like to cycle through random quarterbacks every year, but they seem to have found their guy. They might have it.
They got it. It does look like it. Yeah. I think hold on here. I need to see one thing to your point on that. Did they sign him to just a 1-year deal?
I think they did.
Is Daniel Jones going to go make 50 million a year after this year? Oh my God, Brendan.
And you know
He's
what?
going to go make 50 million a year after this year.
And you know what? I can't even hate. He's killing it out there, man.
Hey, I can't hate it either, but wow, what a job he's done there to get Giants to pay him, and then goodness.
Yeah. Is he going to end up like the highest earning football player in NFL history when he retires somehow?
I think Stafford's going to have that one when it's all said and done, because Stafford came in at that magical time where the first round contracts were still juiced to the nines, and then Lions kept paying him, and he's made a couple contracts off the Rams. He's got to be a guy's like at a $500 million almost, I think, when he's going to be done. But Daniel's going to do all right for himself. He'll get at least, looks like three pretty major contracts, which is hard to do. But Tua's had a rough time of it. That Dolphins situation just looks miserable, and another bad ownership group that just can't get out of its own way in a lot of ways, and how they sort of set this sort of thing up. But,
yeah, and I've talked about this before. I think they've had the same GM for over 20 years.
And again on this too, Brendan, I think that there's a fair point to be made on this, where we a lot of times from us doing this in our position hear a lot about the appeal to authority and how these guys are all just so smart on it. NFL teams do stupid stuff all the time that's stupid on the surface of it. Drafting Tua, I think they drafted him ahead of Herbert, didn't they?
It was, I think, one pick ahead.
Yeah, one pick ahead. But then to come back and give him the extension like they did with still the worries you had there, and seeing, you can see the limitations in him. It's like looking at Bryce Young. It's like you can turn on Bryce Young on 3 plays and see the limitations. He might do some good things, but you can see where there's the limitations is in those guys' games. And to make these guys such high picks, to give them the contract extensions, the NFL absolutely will just do stupid things at times. And I just sit there and shake my head with it, going like, this looks so dumb on the surface of it. You have experts in your room, you've got multiple voices in your room, and this is the conclusion that you come to. This is the smart decision at the end of the line here. Can't quite get it. It speaks to me of an owner coming into me, but I don't know.
I mean, I think that a lot of these decisions aren't like even football decisions. They're business decisions, like, or not even business decisions. Like, I'm thinking about the Jets last year firing Saleh after 5 games. And, clearly that's not a football decision. That's I'm pissed off because Saleh embarrassed me in front of all my British friends at the UK game against the Vikings, and because we lost. So therefore I'm just going to fire him and promote Jeff Ulbrich or whatever his name was, stuff like that. Like that can't be a football decision. There's no way.
I can't think it is either. And that's to your point again, this guy, what he just popped off this last week about Justin Fields with his stupid quote, right? We're losing because of Justin Fields, basically. He throws his owner throwing a quarterback under the, like, just shut up. Just don't say anything. If that's what's coming out of your mouth, just don't. And remember, his son's running somehow off of Madden ratings.
I remember that. Yeah.
What a mess, man. Just what a complete, for $1 billion, you're talking about $1 billion franchise that just completely disarray for multiple decades over. It can't get out of its own way, but good for us, man. Makes it easier for us to be a good, smartly run organization, because we're not making so many dumb mistakes at every turn.
Yeah. There are things that you think that you should say, and then there are things that you think that you should just keep to yourself. Like it's understood that you think that, but you don't have to voice it. Like, with the Mariners, the 54% thing a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you think that, but you don't need to articulate it in public to everybody. Like, just don't say that. Like, think it, base your philosophy off of it if you must, but why are you saying it?
Yeah, because you're not convincing anybody to that, like, oh, okay, I get it. Then I'm okay. Don't do anything. I totally get it. No one's getting convinced of that. It comes off completely, you're tone deaf into understanding of how this is going to land with everybody, where it makes it sound like you're just making excuses for why you're not going to try to do all you can to build a winner despite the support you get from the fan base. And it's just sometimes you just got to shut up and know when there's a time to speak and not. And you don't need to tell the fans everything. We don't need to know all about how the sausage is made in the background.
Yeah, there are dirty little secrets out there. Keep them secret.
Keep them secret, man. Talt, thank you for another $2 donation. He says, if Micah Parsons can be moved for 2 firsts, I have hope.
Yeah, that Parsons trade kind of changed the way I look at this stuff, because I kept coming back to the belief that he was just too good to be traded. Like that, he's too good to actually get moved. And then he got moved, and it's like, you know what? If Micah Parsons can get moved, anybody can get moved.
It's a new era in this sport with that. I think prior eras 20 years ago, a guy like that, there's just no way. I mean, mid 20-year-old kid that's put up on the books what he's put on the books, but there's a lot that goes into these decisions we see now, Brendan, like how you've managed your cap, where your team is currently at. And I have hope for this too, Talt, because I just come back to thinking with the Raiders that they finally now do have actually a brain trust in there between Tom Brady, Spy Tech in there with the combination of guys that will look at this less through the lens of like maybe Pete might with this. I just love Crosby. You can't give up good players. You don't get far giving up good players. Instead of looking at like that simplistic outlook of, hey, what are we going to do with this draft capital? You know, how do we maximize that the most? And the Raiders did this with Khalil Mack. And I've talked to a couple of Raider fans that it's part of what has them hesitant on it because you remember what they did with those picks off of Khalil Mack, Khalil
Right.
Flair. But look, you also made, I think, Josh Jacobs one of those picks, and he was a hell of a back for you. He was a top 3 back in this sport for you for a couple of years that he was there.
It wasn't Alex Leatherwood they got with that pick, was it? Because that would have been really bad.
I don't think it was Leatherwood, but they didn't maximize the capital. Farrell was the big problem because Farrell they made as the number 3 overall pick in the draft. And even that's another one where nobody, I remember us, I think I want to say.
No, this is before. Farrell was before we started doing this.
Yeah, he was before. But I remember this, how stupid that looked on the surface, right? When you did it. Draft pundits are like 3rd overall. What are you doing here, guys? And it was a big part of like, he's a leader. It was nothing about how he played. It was all this like locker room stuff for why they sort of drafted him. But you got to get the picks right. Doesn't mean that it's not still smart to maximize those picks. And if the Raiders had held on to Khalil Mack, Brendan, they wouldn't have been any better as a team moving into the future if he had just remained there and they kept him and they signed him to a new contract extension, which was what he was needing at that point too. Do you agree on that?
Yeah, I mean, you have to take it in isolation, right? You have the trade, and then you have how you use the picks from that trade. The trade can be good, and then the way you use the picks you get in the trade can be bad. That doesn't mean the first part was bad. It just means you didn't take it home the way you should have.
Yeah. It's a $1 million move, 10-cent finish kind of thing. And if you don't get the finish, that's not on the move being bad. It's that you need to get the finish better. So Talt, I have hope here. You're going to have to blow them out of the water with the offer, but kind of the right time, right place to be doing that sort of thing right now. It does feel like that a little bit. If they're willing to make in that move, but we'll see. We're going to learn here on this one pretty shortly. Nick. Yeah, I'm gonna just say Nick because I can't pronounce last name. I'm gonna butcher it, man. Thank you for the $2 donation. He says, "Is the NFC better than the AFC?" Significantly so, I think. Don't you?
Yeah, the AFC looks so weak. I think the Chiefs are just gonna win the conference again, and they're not even that good. I think the Bills are frauds. The Ravens are obviously a big disappointment. I think the Chiefs are going to go to the Super Bowl again just because that conference, they can't get out of their own way. They keep stepping on themselves.
They really do. It's odd to see the Bills kind of almost lose a little bit of their muster this year. Defensively, they just can't seem to find any footing. I don't believe in the Steelers at all either. The Chargers are a complete fraud. That offensive line we can see on a couple of games is they're missing those guys, and it's too much to lose. Slater and all, that's just too much. I don't buy the Broncos at all. At all. Yeah, I don't buy the Broncos.
Bo Nix sucks. I can't take it anymore. That guy sucks. Bo Nix. He's so bad. I can't take it anymore. I'm so sick of pretending that he's good because Sean Payton makes him look competent.
Yeah. And he certainly has plenty of warts in his game that show up and they sort of magic their way through at times in the last couple of years. It seems like at times where they just sort of find a play at the end to kind of eke it out. And that defense is a big driver for what makes them, do what they do there. But yeah, I think you're onto something there with the Chiefs, man. I've been feeling this more and more, which sucks because I don't want to see the Chiefs again back in the Super Bowl, but it does feel a little bit like maybe an inevitability at this point that's going to be the way that this thing ends up rolling.
Yeah, we're hoping for the Patriots. That feels almost like the best bet to stop it.
Yeah,
honestly, and I don't really think they're going to be able to do it either.
Well, and then conversely, I think that you could make an argument from Lions to the Eagles to the Rams. I mean, maybe even us, quite frankly. As all being better teams than anything the AFC is kicking out right now.
I think that's probably right. I mean,
Tampa Bay too. Tampa Bay is better than anything so far,
especially when they get healthy, if they ever do. I guess Mike Evans might not come back this year. That would be big.
That would be so huge if they're missing him, because they need him in that offense to take it to he makes their offense absolutely frightening with Emeka out there too. And if you don't have him out there, that's just a major loss. Because remember too, they did lose a couple, I think, linemen.
Oh yeah,
like Mock's out for the year, and I think they get Godecki back.
No, I think Godecki's on IR. I think he's out.
Is he? He's out for the year too. So yeah, they needed him back if they're going to do. But point still stands. You got 5-6 teams in the NFC that all would be number one type seeds out there in the AFC. And look, the other side, this has been true too, Nick, to the other side, where AFC's been stronger in recent years than the NFC. Just NFC's coming on in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
We're dominating the win law. It's like 30. The NFC's like dominating AFC on the head to head too right now. It's like it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, and the only reason why it's even kind of close is the Broncos kind of fluked 2 wins over the Eagles and Giants in the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
You want to? Should we take a minute to tell the people about Sleeper?
We do. We got to let our folks know here about Sleeper. Both me and Brendan, of course, this year have been kind enough to be sponsored by Sleeper. So let's bring up our stuff here. Thank you again, Nick, for the don't know. Let me get my stuff up here, Brendan. Boom, 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 boom.
Okay.
Boom.
Yeah, Sleeper, great app. Use it. We both have promo codes that'll get you 100% match up to $100 on a first deposit. Brandon's code is NEST, that is Nest, and my code is SBN. And look, you can get over there. You can pick over-unders on all kinds of stuff across sports. Of course, we're all about that football, but they've got basketball, they got college football. You can go up to 1,000x on a ticket. And yeah, you got to take advantage of this stuff, man. If you think you know sports, then go there and prove it.
Go and prove it. And you get the daily fantasy, you get the weekly fantasy. If your fantasy team's in bad right now, like mine suck and win, you got to go there. You can go into weekly, get yourself back on your game for next year, set the stage, earn some money on that. We like the overs and unders here, mainly, both between me and Brendan. So let's look at this Thursday night game tonight, Brendan. Let's do a couple of picks. I'm going to go with Jordan Addison over 48.5 receiving yards. First up.
Okay. Let me see here. Well, with Carson Wentz out there, let me think about that for a second. We got Carson Wentz playing, right?
231 yards passing.
Oh man, that feels like an under to me. I'm smelling the under here.
He's going for the under on that. I'm going to take as well the under on Justin Herbert throwing 256.
These defenses are too good, man.
Yeah, just feels like they're just too good on that one. Oh, they're not going to let me do the promo on both. Okay. Let's go to rush yards here.
Okay.
Jordan Mason at 53.5. Justin Herbert at 16.5. They're down a couple backs, are the Chargers right now.
Right.
Ooh, how about this? 23.5 rushing yards for Aaron Jones.
That feels good, man. That feels like a good one.
All right, we need one more that's on the Chargers side here.
Give me Naheem Hines over 8.5. Feels like he'll do that with like one carry, just like one random carry that he gets.
All right, well, there you go. So on a $5 bet, you can 9.28 times your money on this one. We got Addison more than 48.5 receiving yards, less than 231 for Carson Wentz's passing yards, more for Aaron Jones than 23.5, and more on the 8.5 yards rushing. Again, please use Sleeper today. There's also, in addition to this, Sleeper's got a $20 freebie they're running right now. So you just create a login. They'll give you $20 into your account. Don't even need to do a deposit. But if you use our deposit, you can get up to $120 back in your hip pocket, and you show some love back to the show at the same time. Use Nest or SBN as a code, as Brendan was saying. And again, win yourself some money out there. Go make yourself some dough.
It's out there for you, man. You just got to go get it.
You just got to go get it. It's there to be had. I want a couple of them myself on that side.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we got a couple. Still got another donation here, but I did want to start and asking you on this a little bit with. Well, let's get the donation, then I'm asking the kind of the final position I want to take a look at that we hadn't talked about. Brent, thank you for the $5 donation, Brent. Appreciate you for that. Although many 12s were subdued by the M's loss, our defense held up at home the entire game. More to the argument, noise isn't necessarily a problem.
Yeah, I did read some stuff from people that were at the game about how when the Mariners game went final, the stadium kind of died. And I can get why. I can get that one. That one, we're not going to forget about that one anytime soon.
Yeah, everyone that's been in Seattle that's grown up over the last few, multiple decades over and been around the Mariners understands both that this fan base is as dedicated to that team as you can get, and the love of them and how much they want this World Series to happen and get to that promised land. And that with that's going to come the disappointment when you're this close to getting there and you're pushing into game 7 and you're right on the edge to there. I mean, if your emotions if you don't have the wind taken out of you, then you're not a fan. I mean, you're not in on it at that. So I completely understandable. The Hawk fans were a little bit like gut punched on that one. I probably would have been as well as so on that. And, hopefully the Mariners can get back there here sooner than later, but that's why you want your fans to care, man. You want them to be emotionally invested.
The Mariners press conference earlier today was good. Actually, DePoto went out there and didn't say anything stupid, and actually indicated he thinks they're going to have a good amount of money to play with this offseason based on his talk with ownership.
To me, ownership's got to realize and recognize here that they can do something really special in this moment if they step up to the plate. And you look at the teams in Major League Baseball that are spending money and the teams that were in the playoffs versus teams that weren't. No guarantee it's going to get you there, but boy, it takes you pretty damn far, don't it? Being able to put the money down. I mean, you can feel the impact, and that's the way that these baseball general managers have been trying to sell it. Is just because you spend money. DePoto said this himself. Just because you spend money, it doesn't do. It's like give me a break. Give me a break. So hopefully they will. The part that gets me really encouraged with the Mariners, Brendan, as we go in the future, is that they've taken this very slow process build, but in doing so, you built one of the best farm systems in all baseball. Mm-hmm. And we're going to get that Astros bump that they got when they were initially becoming that team that was a contending team, where they already had kind of a good team going. And now you're getting your guys coming behind, just really reinforcing the ranks as these youngsters start to come up from AAA, and that they're just about to get the benefit of that too. Just spend a little bit more money, get a little bit more of that benefit from that farm system, and boom, we're getting to the series, in my opinion.
Yeah. And, you were able to make the trades these last couple off seasons without compromising the farm system at all. Like you got a Rosarina, you got Naylor, you got Suarez, and you didn't really give up that much. You gave up one or two guys that weren't even all that appealing. You still got Emerson. You still got, what's his name? Celestis Festin, I think, is down there. You still really kept your farm system together, even kind of pushing your chips in this year. And also, I think the other thing is this year was really kind of a worst case scenario for the rotation. Like the rotation was a train wreck this year.
Yeah.
Gilbert got hurt. Kirby got hurt. Castillo was very weak during the middle point of the season. The only guy who you could really count on was Wu. Miller was terrible most of the year because of the injury. Like there's no way the rotation will not be a lot better next year just by random variance.
Yeah, and even in Wu, you lost him for the start of the playoffs. So I was like, that even wasn't added on top of it. And I agree. There should be a better rotation in the next year. Youngsters come up, Harry Ford. These guys get better. I there's a lot of, it's not blind optimism, a lot of reason to believe that this thing will just continue to be carrying on. And the stage is kind of set. So it makes it a little easier versus you're at the end of the line and that was your one shot. Now you're going to lose all these guys and there's no farm system. And now we're just back to reset mode. So hopefully a silver lining to this one for Mariner fans, but understand definitely the depression. Right. Catch, thank you for the $2 donation. He says, can you all do a updated season record projection? Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, let me pull up our last 10 games here, make sure.
So I think we both have 11 wins coming in this year?
Yes, I know I did.
Yeah, that was where I was at, I believe, too. So we started out this year with 11 wins was the prediction when the schedule came out. Catch?
Well, okay, so here's the thing that stands out to me. I had us losing to Washington. That team's not right, though. That team is not right. They're not anywhere near what I thought they would be this year. But on the other hand, you've got Indianapolis, who I thought we would take care of. That team is the real deal. So I think those two games are the first things that jump out to you when you're flipping stuff.
Yeah. So I would go, let's go this, that we got Commanders. Both of us got that as a win. That takes you to 6-2. Cardinals.
So especially Jaden Daniels might not even play. I think we got to go with that for now.
Yeah. And then they've lost Doris Armstrong. One of their better pass rushers is out now too. Their defense has struggled this year.
And we don't lose on the road.
We don't lose on the road. That's right. 9 straight. So we got 6. That'll take us to 6-2. Cardinals. That's a yes. I'm going to go 7-2. You're playing that at home. So 7 and
Okay,
2.
real quick. Would you, if you're Gannon, do you roll with Brissett until he
Yeah.
falls off, or do
Yeah.
you put Murray back in? Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. The issue, they're not going to do it though. Look, if you think that there's another level to Kyler Murray's game at this point that is going to come out, if you're a Cardinal looking at that ownership, or you're kidding yourself. You're looking at the contract, trying to validate the contract. There is no extra level. You've given him multiple opportunities. There should have been things the Cardinals did this offseason to make things easier for Kyler, namely, like maybe addressing better the offensive line, namely getting more skill position players on the outside other than the tryhards he's kind of trying to throw to outside of Marvin Harrison Jr. But you didn't do that. And Brissett's come in there and played better with the same supporting cast than Kyler Murray did. And that, if that doesn't strike you and stand out to you, then I don't know what does. And I think to me, you're putting Kyler out there. It's because you don't want to eat $50 million this offseason. It's the only reason you're doing it. It's like, man, we don't want to just eat that and just, but he's the better option, man. Doesn't he look like that to you?
No, he's a better player. He's actually better.
Yeah.
Like he just is. And he's also a better fit for a player like a Marvin Harrison Jr. So I would.
I still don't think that gives them the possibility of beating us at home, especially if we're on that kind of roll like we will be at that point. So I would still put that as a win for us at 7-2. I'd probably come back with the Rams on the road and say that'd probably be a spot that you're probably losing that game. So I'd go 7-3.
I agree. Lose a lot of respect for the Rams when they lost to Mac Jones, but I think they'll get that one. You know, they usually take care of business at home. Not that they really get a home game, but yeah.
And it was a Thursday night game with the Niners. It was a weird kind of thing. So we got 7-3. Titans at the Titans. I think we both got that as a win. 8-3.
Yeah.
Vikings at home.
Sounds like JJ McCarthy's basically been benched, so I guess they're just rolling with Carson Wentz. We're not losing to Carson Wentz. I refuse.
All right, so we go 9-3. Then we face a Falcons team that is kind of two different versions. You have the home Falcons team, and then you got the road Falcons team. The road Falcons team can't do anything. The home Falcon team is hard to deal with.
This is tough because I had this as a loss before the season started. I think I'm going to stick with it. The Falcons are not quite as good as I was hoping, but they are a threat at home. Like you get games in that dome, and they just turn it into a track meet.
Yeah, so let's go there. That's 9-4. We're both basically on the same page here. Then we get the Colts with a 9-4 record. That's at home, so not on the road, which makes it a big deal to me because they're so tough to deal with at home. So you do get that at home, Brendan, but this is a tough one.
The thing is, I feel like you can really move the ball on that Colts defense. Feels like pretty much everybody is moving the ball on the Colts defense this year. So I'm gonna, man, this is hard. This is the hardest one.
I kind of think this. You got the Colts and the Rams next week. Especially considering I had the Rams loss at home on the initial game. I think you get one of those wins and one of those losses there. Is that a fair way of looking at it on that?
Yeah, rather than saying maybe you're looking ahead to the Rams because that's a Thursday game.
Right. So I'm thinking between those two games, you grab a win and one of those, one of them's a loss. 1-1 is probably your record there.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, that takes us to 10-5. Panthers at the Panthers. It's a TBD game, so I don't think we're getting prime timed on that one. But I would probably say that's a win still, nonetheless, with where the Panthers are at.
Yeah, I don't believe in that Panthers team. I know that they're kind of surging here a little bit, but I'm not buying it.
And though the 49ers were able to beat us at home in the opening part of the season, this team is stacking injuries like nobody's business in this sport. Nobody else is at the same pace of them. They're going to lose more games to injury. Bosa's not coming back. Fred Warner is not coming back. McCaffrey's on pace, Brendan, to have about 500 touches this year.
They're going to have Nick Mullins playing quarterback for them in this game.
It's very possible by this point. So I just feel like on that one that this is one where you take him at the end because as much of that they've run out of gas by this point. I can't think that this zombie team can stay and keep it afloat as good as they've been able to do a job to navigate these waters so far. I just, and you're hearing things like, for instance, like Brandon Ayuk's actually healthy, but they're just not playing him.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Which is like, what? Which is, And again, too, just goes back to show you, this is why you don't play that whole contractual game in training camp with the whole, like, we're going to pay him, but it's at our time pace. We'll let him sit out. We'll eventually come around to paying him. That never works out really well in your favor. The guy's probably going to be injured that first year that you then sign him because he's missed training camp. Then you got the hurt feelings from Ayuk with him that still carried through from those negotiations where he feels like he's been done dirty. Trade him or pay him. Don't stand on the effing fence there, because this is the problems that come out of that.
Right. Yeah, I think we got the Niners. I feel pretty strongly about that. And what's probably going to happen with the Niners at some point is the wheel's going to fall off and they're just going to go on a big losing streak, I think. Kind of like last year. They had all those injuries last year, but they stayed upright. And then we beat them in San Fran. And I don't know if they won another game the rest of the year.
Yeah, I could really see it going this way. And the injuries are even worse this year than they were last year, I think, for them, Brendan, if I want to say. I mean, you had a couple guys you lost. It's for sure McCaffrey, but you did have at least a Warner in there that was rolling for you. So that gets us to 12 wins, Catch. That'd be updated. We'd have us one win better right now, by the looks of things, and feeling pretty confidently so about it. It's just part of representative why we thought the schedule was going to be an easier one for your Seahawks this year than we had dealt with in recent years. And it's playing out that way. I look at a lot of teams in this league that are good this year, Brendan, that I'm happy we don't have to play in the regular season. I'm glad we don't have to play Kansas City. I'm glad we don't have to play Detroit. I'm glad we don't have to play Buffalo. I mean, these are teams that's like, hey, those will be damn hard games to go and get through. And we've kind of been given the other side of it on this one. So Catch, we're feeling good, man. We were at 11 wins prior to the year. We're both now at 12 wins and in agreement on that.
I like it.
Let's go. One position I want to touch on with you here. I think we've covered most of these that could be in play for the Seahawks to make a move for, but the one that we haven't talked about that's got, to me, 3 potentially interesting names here. And I'm partly open to this because I look at the running back position. I think, okay, we've gotten through this good with the health wise so far. Number one, yes, that's not always been the case though in recent years. And to count on that, everything's going to be healthy through the rest of the year there, no problem. I don't know. I'm also not sure that there might be a little bit of a fairly significant step you take backwards if you go from Charbonnet to Holani, if you go from Walker to Holani. And so this has had me growing more open to a running back trade being moved, especially knowing that the cost is going to be very insignificant to go out there and maybe target this position at the trade deadline. The 3 names I come to, and I think they all give you kind of 3 different things that they could bring to play. Derrick Henry, Devon Achane, and Breece Hall are the 3 guys that to me could be potentially ones you sort of kick the tires on. And Hall and Achane, you got to go into the last year of their deal. So you're kind of getting them on a rental basis. Henry is not in the last year of his deal, but they could move him because they void yeared the deals out. So like they could move that contract if they wanted to move him. Are any of those 3 guys interesting to you, or maybe only interesting to you at a certain price, or not interesting to you?
I'm willing to listen. I will say again, I think the issues with this Seattle run game is more the offensive line and not the talent level of our running backs. But I remember really liking Breece Hall in the draft. I don't know if he's gotten all the way back from his, what was it, Achilles? Was it ACL or Achilles?
Thought it was ACL.
Either way, I don't know if he's all the way back from that, and I don't know if he ever will be. Derrick Henry, how has he been this year? I know he's fumbled a lot, but how is he doing this
5
year?
yards a carry.
I'm still churning. Still
churning.
clicking.
Still churning.
And, I think Achane is phenomenal. I think he's almost so good Miami wouldn't be willing to move him.
Well, just with Miami on that he's in the last year of his contract here, I think. So
yeah, I think that's a guy they're going to try to really build around. He's still so young. He's like 24 years old.
He is, and it was odd that his name sort of came up out of nowhere there for them to be looking to move him. Yeah, he's got one more year of his contract there, so odd if they would with still another year. He's got 2026, but maybe a guy that's going to push to try to get paid, and they don't want to pay him too because some teams don't want to pay running backs. And let's face it, with Miami, who's the last running back that they paid? Oh, you're muted.
Unbelievable. Maybe Ronnie Brown.
Ronnie Brown. So that's freaking almost 20 years ago, just about now at this point, going back to Ronnie. So
Ronnie Brown was a lot of fun. I like that guy.
He was a lot of fun. How about the King of the Wildcat, man?
Mhm.
King of the Wildcat. Rawr.
And
All right.
unlike these other running backs that run Wildcat, he actually threw the ball once in a while, which is a big reason why it worked.
It did. Yeah, no, he had a decent arm there. I do like A-Chain of all these names. I think your Hall that you mentioned is a guy that averaged 5.8 yards per carry his first year. He's been around 4. Something seems like it got pulled from him on that ACL. That happens with these running backs. Henry's a guy that's me, though I like his 5 yard per carry average. He is a guy that you have to kind of get the hole and let him get his build-up speed going. You talked about the stuff rate. I think he would really be impinged by the high stuff rate that you'd be facing here, where he would not be able to get up to speed. He's not a tackle breaker in the backfield. The cost wouldn't be significant to get him, but I just don't know the fit for where your offensive line's at in the run blocking game of things. A-Chain's the fun one, where if you bring an A-Chain, that's a weapon. Now you can put him in with the other 3 running backs, and it's not about somebody getting stacked in the depth chart. You just have a weapon you can use, especially with him out of the backfield as a pass catcher. Something that we haven't done much of with these backs so far is really using him out of the backfield, and maybe somewhat of where this rumor kind of came from was Seattle maybe being interested in because of that as much as anything. But he'd be the one guy to me that I might be willing to kind of, check out there. I wouldn't give up significant assets for him. And what would Miami want? That'd be kind of the question there, but I'd be open to it.
Yeah, I suspect that he's a little too good for Miami to move. And I am a big fan though. So if that's on the table, I'm jumping on that.
I could see it. I could see it as being one where they just say we're standing pat here, especially with that 1 year of extra club control that they still do maintain over the top of him.
He's younger than some rookie running backs right now. Like he is 24 and not even a month. I looked this up recently. He is very young. He came into the league at when he was 11, apparently. I don't know.
I love those young guys coming to the league, man, because that's where you get that upside coming down the line. If they can be that good that early, then it's like you can, once they get that 24, 25, you got something. You're cooking with gas at that point. Is there anyone else that we might have not talked about that's an interesting guy that you want to mention on this?
I usually like to talk about nose tackle here, but I don't think that makes sense anymore. I think we're having too much success with the way we're doing things right now. So, this is where I would normally talk about a guy like a John Jenkins from Baltimore, but I don't think it makes sense. Nothing really stands out, man.
Yeah, that's kind of where I got to on the list of as well. I did look at nose tackles, just nothing jumped enough to be impactful enough, because you're going to want something impactful rather than that lateral kind of move you're looking at making. So I came back to this is kind of what you got to pick through as far as the bottom line goes.
Yeah. I don't think there's a lot else. A lot of these guys got hurt too, right? Like we could have talked about Eric McCoy a little bit maybe, but he's on IR now.
That's me. A couple guys that are just off the board because of those reasons. So you're just sort of going, okay, well, it is what it is on that one. And see what John does. He does sitting on a lot of money right now, Brendan, for where he's at. Never had this amount of cap space at this time of year in the last 15 years. And you got to feel like in John, as I was seeing on my wrap-up video earlier this week, it's like it's burn a hole in his wallet. You got to feel like to a degree here, where you just got to feel like, man, I'm already sitting on $70 million of dead money, and then I'm sitting on $25 million of cap space in addition. I'm kind of just sitting with $100 million not being utilized on our books right now. I feel like John would feel a little push there to try to do something here, understanding that that's the case.
Right.
Connor Wilson with a $5 donation, finishing us off really right. And you guys are just unbelievable in all your support today. Thank you for all the donations on both me and Brendan's side. Please do, if you guys are watching on either side, hit that like button. It helps us show up on the algorithm on both our sides. Really, really appreciate it. Of course, please do get subbed up on Seahawks Brendan Nelson. If you're here on my side, if you're on Brendan's side, please do get subbed up to the Hawks Nest. Much, much appreciated. Connor, thank you for the $5 donation. My sweetheart of a mother passed last week, and you guys have kept me distracted from the pain. Thank you for doing what you guys do. Go Hawks. That's tough. My condolences out there, Connor. I've had a couple people that something happened last week where a few different folks have had some folks pass, and it's just your heart goes out to you because you just know what you're going through on that, man.
Yeah, I got a next door neighbor right now. I don't know her super well, but she's best friends with my mom, and she's going through it this year, like really, really aggressive cancer. Not expected to make it through the year, and it's been unpleasant. So yeah. I kind of feel that it's not the same, I know, but I feel it.
And there's no Connor short. There's no, fast forward and sort of mourning. It's just you go through it like this with, as they say, the stages of grief. That's what they literally call it. And there's no fast way through it. So if we can help you out a little bit getting through it, that's great to hear from our standpoint, because our heart definitely goes out to you, know what you're going through. We've all, lost somebody and had to go through that. And it's just, especially your mother. I mean, there's no one more special than that to be able to, had to have lost. So hopefully you're hanging in there okay, Connor. Appreciate you watching over here, and just know it will get a little bit better with time, but it's natural to be kind of struggling through a little bit on that one.
Yeah, thank you, Connor.
Appreciate you, brother. Well, really thank you guys for watching again today, and we will be back here looking to preview next week.
We do have a little bit of breaking news here. Yeah, just in the nick of time. Bengals linebacker Logan Wilson has requested a trade officially as of 1 minute ago from Adam Schefter.
Wow.
How do you feel about that one?
Bengals sure find a way to piss off their players, don't they? First round picks, top end pass rushers, off ball linebackers. I mean, Jermaine Pratt wanted out there, I think, too, at the end, didn't he? Like, he was kind of done.
Yeah, that sounds right. Carson Palmer, I'd rather retire than ever play another down for this team in his prime.
Yeah, so with Logan, I want to say with him that he is just a guy that's has been another one of those, Mike. It's like kind of the DeMario Davis thing, but he's obviously a younger player. In that I think that he's like 245 pounds. I don't know if he's going to as much be a will. Yeah, he's never played any will, man. Like I'm going back through. He's got one game of Baltimore, I guess. Here he was at a will back in 2024. So they do have a couple games every year here where they've kind of fitted him a little bit into will. All right. So there has been a little will in him. And they did have Jermaine Pratt there before, and Pratt was the will. So that's why you didn't maybe have as much of a pull. So I guess maybe there's something there. I'm not as well familiar with where Wilson's at in his game right now. But there is some familiarity playing it. So, yeah, I'm open to it on this one. Not going to cost you a lot to do it. The Bengals, that they can get a trade request, that's a team that will dig its heels in and be like, no, we got you under contract. Stuff it. Especially with the Bengals right now, you can see with them and not willing to move Hendrickson that they're trying to do this, talking themselves into Burrow's going to come back and we can reclaim the season with a hot hand Burrow at the end. And remember last year, Burrow got hot and to help them push it down the line as it was. So they're hoping history kind of repeats itself.
Yeah, but I mean, every indication is that he'll be lucky to be back for the last 4 games. I mean, I guess they got a pretty easy schedule, and Flacco played really well last week, but that's a heck of a bet.
I'm not saying I'd make the bet. I'm not saying if I'm the Bengals, I'm like, yeah, I can see the pathway. But like you said, it's easier schedule. This is one of those rare years where it's not 4 stack of a division toughies. 2 of those divisions, guys in this division, the Ravens and the Browns, kind of are in Suckville. So it's like maybe it emboldens you a little bit more in that way. And again, understanding too with the Bengals that they inherently, from an ownership standpoint, don't like to really trade players. It's not, especially a deadline kind of moves like this. All the times they've been in Loserville at times. We got the Carlos Dunlap one a couple of years ago, but other than that, I don't think they've done a lot of different deals when they've been in a lesser state. They tend to just kind of stand pat.
Carson Palmer, I guess, right? They moved him, but that was a long time ago.
But that was, that was 25 years ago. So these are the only 2 trades we can kind of find. There's a couple others who maybe
that was like 15. Because Carson Palmer got traded in around like 2011.
Was it? All right. The years start to run together. You might be right on that. It all blends together after a while. It becomes the same decade. But the bottom line point being that they're not a team that they get a lot of trade requests from players. Hendrickson this offseason, they don't just acquiesce to that. There's a lot of times where they'll just be like, no, we're not doing it. Especially like Logan, what are you going to get back in return for him? Maybe a 4th, maybe a 5th. Yeah. At most, which probably is not going to move it enough for them to do that, I would guess.
All right. So just wanted to spend a few minutes on that because he is a linebacker worth a talk.
No, hey, that's all the guys on the table we want to consider here who could be in play. So I want to, consider if it is. And again, looking back on PFF, it's like about twice a year he plays will for a given game. They got MLB, and then WLB. So he has done a little bit of it. And 29 years old, not tremendously old on that side of it either. Former 3rd round pick in 2020. So maybe. Well, folks, we will be back next week previewing up this Commanders game on Thursday at 12 o'clock. Again, please hit that like button, sub on up, and as well, do utilize that Sleeper app for that $120 back in your pocket using either me or Brendan's code, SBN or NEST. Really appreciate it. Please see their site for details as well on that. Terms and conditions do apply. We got bye week. You do anything fun for the bye week, Brendan?
Probably not. Probably not anything too exotic. Just we got the Huskies this week. Big game, actually, very important. So there's that. But other than that, I think it's going to be pretty chill. I'll probably make a lot of videos about trade stuff. A lot of the stuff we talked about in this stream.
Hell yeah. Well, now's the time to be jumping on it, and we wanted to get on this early to get you guys the heads up and following that. So keep kicking ass over on your end, man. I look forward to chopping this up again here in another week.
Yeah, we got a pretty, I guess it's not as big a game as I thought it was going to be, but still a pretty big game against Washington coming up. We'll talk about that next week. Got plenty of stuff to go over.
Definitely so. And you do have that deadline. If they haven't made a move at that point, I do kind of feel like they're going to make a move. It's going to be sooner than a little bit later to the end of the deadline, but another win there could maybe push John even a little bit more if he hasn't made a move by that point to say, all right, let's get something going here. We're rolling here. Thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate you on that front of it. We will be back very, very soon. Come back tomorrow on Friday with the Seahawks Weekly Roundup. So I'll be back at 12 tomorrow on that. But until that time, please don't you ever forget. Don't you do it. Shouldn't have to remind you here with the Mariners now out. Now you're fully into football. Shouldn't have to remind you here with this Seahawks team on a hell of a roll. But we are going to do so anyway. Please don't you ever, ever forget. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.